everyone, welcome into our latest live broadcast. Today it is the 22nd of April 2026. It's Wednesday. My name is CareyHolzman. Thank you guys for joining us today as we continue our review of the GMKtec M8. So the backstory on this is I went looking at Amazon, on Amazon for some mini PCs that I think might be a good value and something worth buying when everything is so expensive right now. The price of mini PCs has gone up a bit, all computer components. However, there's still some good deals to be had. So I think this might be one of them. And yeah, you let me know what you think. If you know of any good mini PC deals, if you agree or disagree, let us know why and give us some examples on why you would disagree. In other words, there must be something better. What is it? Let us know, because we're wide-eyed and eager to find some good deals out there. So for example, if I look at the Amazon page here, check this out. I want to say we paid $360 for this. There was a coupon I didn't even realize was available until I was at checkout. And for $360 plus the sales tax applies in our case as well. What we got here is this GMKtec M8, which is a Ryzen Pro 6650. That's a 6-core, 12-thread processor with dual NIC LAN adapters that are 2.5 gigs. It's 16 gigs of soldered on RAM. That's what the LP usually stands for, low power. That usually means it's soldered on. A lot of people turn their nose up to soldered on in the same way that, well, let me think of an example. There used to be, not too long ago, a typical use case scenario for upgrading your RAM. These days, those days are gone, except for extreme users or unusual use case scenarios. When you go with soldered on RAM, you're going to save money. You're going to have RAM that's faster, and you're going to have RAM that likely will never fail. So there's all these benefits to soldered on RAM. And especially when prices are so high for everything, especially RAM, any way that you can get faster RAM cheaper, why would you turn your nose up at that? This isn't 2016 anymore. So one of the things I constantly harp on here on the channel is the importance to keep up and holding on to your values from 20 years ago. Creates this disconnect with people whose values have adapted to current times. And that's fine if you want to, go through life arguing with everybody because you're stuck in old ways. I don't want to do that. I always want to present a valid argument for why those old ways don't apply anymore and how it doesn't make any sense in both value of your time and the value of your money to keep doing things the way you used to. We used to do a lot of things in the 1970s we don't do today. We did a lot of things in the 1980s we absolutely do not do today. And in much the same way, computer technology is evolved to a point where in the 1980s, when I had my Atari computer, my TRS-80 computers, these computers are so different and everything is so different that apart from the logic of how computers think, everything else has changed. The lesson I learned how to type, the keyboard hasn't changed, okay? So I can continue to type the same way. There's really nothing new for me to learn there. But when it comes to how we operate the computer, what we use the computer for, one could say that in the 90s up until the 2020s, we would constantly want modular systems that we could modify to our own desires and needs. And that was really kind of a niche enthusiast community through about the year 2000, 2005. Then all of a sudden, it took on this massive adoption, and it was no longer niche and it was no longer enthusiast. Now it was everybody's got 1, 2, 3 computers. Then, as far as consumers are concerned, the smartphone with internet access came out with the touchscreen, and all of a sudden, a lot of consumers, they didn't care about computers anymore because now they can do what they need to do on their phone. That's with them everywhere they go. And they're not likely going to be upgrading the RAM on their phone or the processor. They don't worry about how hot their phone gets, monitoring the temperatures and the resources and all this other nonsense that would get you fired in corporate America if you played these little silly games that people watching YouTube and a lot of people creating YouTube videos just apparently have nothing else better to do. What we're trying to get done and what I'm trying to emphasize on this channel is a professional approach and a modern approach to identifying value today, not 20 years ago, and what we're doing today with regards to soldered on RAM and even the mini PC itself. So most people don't need the big towers. I would say the people who need the big towers, they're a fringe group. They're becoming more and more fringe. It used to be everybody wanted one. First, nobody wanted one for about 15, 20 years. Then everybody wanted one for about 15 or 20 years. And now only the enthusiasts, the diehards, the hardcore gamers, and those people that have a lot more money to spend or are willing to spend it, it's kind of reached a peak, and now it's going back down again. This is what I'm seeing. Now in corporate America, that's a different story. I'm strictly talking about the home consumer. In corporate America, they're still using computers because they have to get work done. And if they don't get work done, you go without electricity, you go without food, you go without car insurance, you go without groceries, right? I just said food. You go without electricity, you go without water, you go without any service, you go without cell phone service. All of these things that make you a consumer don't exist without corporate America. And corporate America relies on their computers so they can make the hundreds of millions of dollars that they're making, not only from you, but from other companies. They also have to buy electricity and water. They also need air conditioners, and they have to be designed by somebody, and the parts have to be created typically in a PC, like an AutoCAD or a similar application where you can create the schematics for the circuit board and the casing and enclosure. You can run simulations, and then that gets sent off to a factory, and the factory is going to be run by computers, right? The computers need to be programmed, they need to be updated, they need to be maintained. Then that's going to go to a shipping service. Now the shipping service is heavily computer dependent when it comes to any sort of distribution. So now you've used the computer to create this air conditioner. You've sent the schematics and parts requirements to your builder, maybe in China. They build it to your specifications for a certain price for so many units. The more you build, the cheaper they get, so you get economies of scale. Then you need to get them from China to your wherever you want to sell them. So back over to the United States, you got to use a shipping company. The shipping company will involve also a cargo company. These companies communicate through software, through computers, not from their cell phones. They're using computers. And then on top of that, once it arrives, it's got to go to a warehouse where it's going to be inventoried, which is going to be by computers. And then it's going to go to your final mile of service, right? Once it's sold, to get it to your house or to get it to your business. And then that requires another separate delivery service, which also runs strictly on computers. The delivery drivers are using computers in their delivery vehicles just to figure out where to turn, how to find you. Nobody's reading maps anymore. So if you're still looking for paper maps, that's the same person that's probably also still looking for being able to upgrade their own RAM. They're a level of enthusiast, or they're such a diehard that they require it. But for the rest of us, most of us don't need that. We talk about right to repair. I'm all about right to repair. But when it costs $300 to repair an item that costs $100 new, what is that a right to do? To spend 3 times more and make it 3 times harder and wait 3 times longer and hope you fixed it right the first time and that you were able to figure it out and repair it correctly, versus just go buy another one for $100 and be done with it. Unless, of course, you're in warranty, which in this case, when you're in warranty, which could be 1 year to 3 years, depending on the computers you're buying, it doesn't cost you anything. You just send it back to the manufacturer, you get a replacement. So this whole right to repair thing really works out best on expensive items. And computers used to, I'm going to be using that word a lot, they used to be expensive. What I paid for my first computer, in my first IBM compatible computer, in 1990 was probably when it was $1,200. Now in 1990, I was earning $3.65 an hour minimum wage. It's not the $12 or $14 you guys get today at minimum wage. But also, that means that with inflation, that $1,200 in 1990 money is worth, let's see, let me ask Google. What is 1,200 USD worth in 1990 worth today? So that's the same today as if I spent $3,031 approximately, about $3,000, almost 3 times what I could buy for 50 cents is now $1.50, right? I used to buy candy bars for 50 cents. Now candy bars are $1.50. That's a good example of inflation. And maybe the candy bars also shrunk a little bit, and the ingredients aren't as good as they used to be for a lot of them. So things keep changing, and if we don't adapt and if we're not flexible and we don't react to it, then we're stuck in the past and we become more and more useless when we're trying to help people, if that's what you want to do. Or even if you're trying to help yourself, you're really taking a path going the hard way by doing something in a very difficult way that we have technology that either makes it completely irrelevant for you to try and do any of that stuff today. It's already done for you, like making patch cables. Why would I make a patch cable? You get blisters on your fingers. You got to buy all the tools, the cutter, the stripper, the crimper, the ends, the cable. Hope you have enough cable. Test it. If it doesn't work, you know, cut off the end and do it again until you get it right. Or just go buy a pre-made cable of any length you want, and they're pennies on the dollar. It doesn't make any sense to step over dollars just to pick up dimes. If you enjoy the process, if you enjoy the work and it's a hobby for you, congratulations, you represent 1% of the population. Most of us, we just want a cable. Just buy it, plug it in, and get on with life. And when that cable is cheaper, more reliable, and just overall has a better sturdy build because it'll be made at a factory where the ends are sealed versus you just crimping it down and throwing a rubber boot over it, those cables are going to last so much longer. So they're cheaper, better made, more consistent, higher quality, and you can have them instantly for pennies on the dollar, or you can make it yourself for the next 3 hours, build your own cables, deal with sore fingers the next 3 or 4 days, and convince yourself you save some money. I don't know what the logic is there. We did it because we had to. It reminds me of this old story. I haven't told it in a while, so I'll remind you. Every Easter, the little girl's mother makes a ham, and before she puts the ham in a pan, she cuts the end off of the ham, and she thinks that's weird, and she asks her mother, how come you always cut the end off of the ham? And the mother said, I cut the end off the ham because that's the way my mother did it when I was growing up. So she asks her grandmother, why do you and mom cut the end off of the ham? And she goes, well, I do that because that's the way my mother always did it when I was growing up. So her great-grandmother is still alive, and she sees her great-grandmother, and she says, how come mom and grandma always cut the end off the ham? Because they just tell me they did it because you did it. And the great-grandmother looks down at her daughter, and she says, well, dear, I have no idea why they do that. The reason that I did it all those years ago is my pan wasn't big enough. And this is a problem with tradition. Let's just keep doing something, even if it doesn't make any sense anymore. Let's be superstitious and let's hold on to traditions that we should have long since, in my opinion, gotten rid of. Now, I'm not saying that universally of all traditions, but there are certain traditions that just don't apply today. They had a good, valid reason many, many years ago, and there's some nostalgia, maybe a good feeling about honoring this old school, difficult way of getting things done for no apparent reason anymore other than we do it because that's what we've always done. I've never, ever been a proponent of that, and one of my difficult challenges in working in corporate America, when I was told to do a job that didn't make any sense, I'm like, why are we doing it all? Why are we going through all these steps when only 2 steps are necessary? And they say, because that's how we do it. And I would say, well, that's how we do it, is the excuse you use for why you do it that way. But that's not answering my question. I know why you're doing it. You're doing it because you've always done it that way. My question is, why are you so reluctant to improve efficiency and quality, reduce cost, and produce more by modernizing the steps? And the answer that I was given was, if I wanted to spend a few hours, just stop working and write up all the pros and cons about the method we use today and outline each method, each step, my suggested improvement and outline each step, the approximate time that one takes over the other, and then calculate out over the course of a quarter or a year how much hours and money that's going to save us versus, what are the potential downsides, and then get all this presentation put together, then go into a meeting with all the bosses and get my turn to speak in front of all of my superiors to tell them they're all a bunch of idiots and that they should be doing it this way because this makes sense. And if I want to do that, they'll let me, but they won't pay me extra for it, and I've got other work to do. So if you want to pursue that, if you've got nothing else better to do and it doesn't hold up your production, then absolutely you're always more than welcome to do that. But why would I go through all of this trouble and effort for a job that isn't mine to educate the people in charge so they can save money and be more efficient? Like, why would I need to twist your arm to give you something to eat? If you're hungry, you'll take it. So I'm not going to sit there and try to convince you and manipulate your, you really want this and you really need that. No. Maybe if you're a little baby and you're in my care, but as an adult, if I have to coddle you like that and I have to convince you how to open your eyes and look around and see what's obvious, I can't be bothered to waste my time with somebody that oblivious. So I've got other work to do. And what I ended up doing in corporate America is using my process anyway, and they didn't know any different. But that was, if I was caught, that likely would have resulted in at the very least, a meeting with the boss privately in his office. And at the worst, you can collect your things and go. That's how strict corporate America is on that stuff. So that's why when you are raised and taught in that environment, and you see how consumers just do whatever the hell they want, right? To heck with any rules, to heck with any policies. They're so flippant and then tell themselves, look at how smart I'm being by turning on a feature Microsoft doesn't give us. And then later they find out a Windows update crashes their computer and they blame Microsoft when it was that thing they changed that they thought made them smarter than everybody else. All the dumb people don't have any problems with Windows update. It's the smart people who do. So, if you like that sort of madness, don't let me stop you. You're not doing anything wrong. But it's simply not the way the work is done in the professional world. You wouldn't be in business very long. And I'm here to represent that on this YouTube channel where I can show and demonstrate these new ways. And some people, they want to argue about it. And I don't care how you want to do your job. What you do to your computer is your computer and it's your business. You don't need to tell me about it. You don't need to argue with me about it. I'm not here to convince you. There's nothing in it for me. If I share this information with you that I have learned from real world experience and over 35 years in this industry, and you are convinced you know better, then I know what the problem is and we can move along, because that's not a problem I can fix. And eventually, someday, I will probably get a message from people that say, oh, now I get what you were saying. It just hasn't happened to you yet. So that's okay. We all get there in our own time. It doesn't require you to be there with me today, but you will inevitably get there. You have no choice, because either what you're doing that's causing problems doesn't bother you, you're not annoyed by it, nobody's chastising you for it, so you'll just continue to do it. You're not hurting anybody. But if you seriously want to work like a professional, if you want that good of quality work that you do at home, well, a professional is telling you the rules of corporate America that I didn't make up, why they exist, and why I've adopted them in my own business, because they all make sense. They didn't make sense to me before, not right away. But then as I started to spend more time in corporate America, started to see just the sheer number of employees and the different attitudes people have, that there has to be strict policies. You can't just let people do whatever they want. They can't just watch a video or read an online article and then end up taking the whole company down, potentially putting millions of dollars at risk. That would be insane. And why would you treat yourself with any less respect because you don't have $1 million to risk? That you can, but if corporate America has a policy or a process, that will almost always work for a consumer. It will almost always be great advice. But it doesn't work the other way around. If a consumer is trying to tell a corporation how they could save money, they don't have a clue what they're talking about, because there are complexities at play that they don't have any concept of. If you've never worked there, you're ignorant of it, and you don't know what you don't know. So while you're well intended, you don't have enough information to fully grasp the total potential devastating and catastrophic consequences of those decisions. When it affects just you, it's never a catastrophe. It's just you. But when it affects hundreds or thousands of employees and investors and all their customers, that little whoopsie could be like a nuclear bomb going off. Whereas when you do it at your house, it's a firecracker. So that's why I say for corporations, the policies and the procedures, they almost all work universally for consumers as good advice to follow. But very rarely does that ever work the other way around. Consumers take shortcuts. They have consequences nobody knows about. They don't go around bragging about them usually. They keep it to themselves. And in many cases, they don't even acknowledge they caused the problem, which in many times they do. They refuse to accept responsibility. And we're seeing that more and more in modern day society, where people just look to blame. My suggestion is we start in the mirror, because that's what's going to happen in corporate America. You're going to get the blame whether you did it or not. And then you've got to be prepared for that. And you've got to be able to show your evidence of your work and that you followed procedures. Otherwise, you may not have a job. It's all about survival. It's a very competitive industry. And you've got to bring your A game if you want to move up in the company or stay with the company, which is, you know, in and of itself, a kind of like a game that can be enjoyed, no different than any other video game, except, you know, your livelihood is on the line, not a pretend virtual character. So I love it. You know, the real consequences to me are far more thrilling, invigorating, and fulfilling than playing something on a computer screen that isn't real. But anyway, getting back to the GMKtec, I went online and I found a few mini PCs, and this one looked like a really solid value at, even now, it still seems like a really good price. If we go back over to Amazon, let me put that back up on the screen. A lot of computers today are being sold without RAM or storage because it's so much money. The fact that this already has RAM and storage on it and is still selling for, what's the price on this? Uh-oh, see all buying options. Ooh, that's a bit more than we pay. You join Prime. Okay, so the reason it's coming up this way is I'm not signed into Amazon. But I am an Amazon customer. I've been for many, many years. And you can see it's $100 cheaper, so $379.99. And they've got different variations of different looks and different configurations. This one says $389. That is a Ryzen 7. That's the K16 with 32 gigs of soldered on RAM and a 512. It also has dual NIC LAN and OCulink USB4. Same as today's model. Also has OCulink and USB4, right? No, this one does not have USB. Wait a minute. Where did it go? It's over here. No, that's not, that's, where is it? M7, M5, it's got to be hidden, right? Yeah, that's the one right there, the M8. Yeah, this does have OCulink and USB4. That's what I thought. Okay. So you're getting a full computer, just like you used to, under $400, which isn't that much more than they were selling. Maybe $100, if that. So it's not like a major price doubling or tripling. I don't particularly find this computer attractive. But really, that's the worst thing I've got to say about it so far. And it's not that it's ugly, it's just not elegant. But I would have no hesitation, so far in what we've learned about this computer, I would have no hesitation recommending this for my business clients. Now, let me get back over to camera 1 here. Oh, wait. Before I do, this is the GMKtec website, and you can buy directly from them. If you're not an Amazon Prime customer, you can still get that price. Their shipping isn't as fast as Amazon's, but they have free shipping worldwide, so if you're watching outside of the USA, they have 7-day returns, not 30-day returns. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're in the US, there's no import fees. Unlike other mini PC manufacturers that are now offering 2- and 3-year warranties, GMKtec is still only offering a 1-year warranty. But they will take PayPal, and PayPal even has a pay later option if you don't have any credit. It's a good way to start building your credit. You can make a few payments, 4 payments monthly, you know, and makes it very affordable. They have a European site and a Japan site as well. So if you're in those countries and you want to look at the current prices there, and then whatever AT is. What is AT? Let's see, country code. AT country. Oops, back that up. AT country code is Austria. Interesting, I did not know that. All right, so if you're in Austria, if you are in, where were we, over here, Europe or the UK, they have separate sites for you. And then there's different configurations. This just adds a 1 terabyte SSD, upgrading the 512 to twice the size, and you'll see how that affects the price, right? It goes up $40. That's not terrible. Not in today's market, not at all. So anyway, I want to share this with you because if you think it's a good deal, it doesn't do you any good if I don't tell you how to get it. So what we needed to do today is, from part 1 last week, we did not have the time, other than disassembling it and, you know, looking at how difficult or how easy it is to open. And it was very easy, and any sort of catches there, like only having 1 thermal pad. So if you want to add a second M.2 drive, you can on this, but you'll need to provide your own thermal pad. And you better make sure your thermal pad is of the similar thickness, or your heatsink's not going to sit flat. So one of them dries isn't going to get cool. Little details like that, you only know if you open it up and look at it. Let's go ahead and power it on. And what I've done, since we've looked at this initially, is I went ahead and ran Crystal Disk Mark, and I ran Cinebench under the default power profile. And what I thought we would do today is we'll take a look at Crystal Disk Info just to get the details on the factory installed NVMe drive. And then also change the power profile to the quiet low power mode, which obviously is going to score lower on Cinebench. And then go to the performance mode to hear how loud the fans get and see how hot the computer will get. Get those scores, and then we'll have all 3 screenshots of Cinebench with the 3 different power profiles. That's probably going to take up all of our time today. So let's go check this up and see if it's booted up here. Jump over there real quick. There it is. And the first thing I want to show you, if we come over here to these screenshots, this is our Crystal Disk Mark results on this enclosed NVMe drive. And you can see it's not performing very well. This is like Gen 3 by 2 speeds instead of Gen 3 by 4. But it's not the computer. It's that in order to get this price this low, they've got to use components that are genuinely, you know, people are turning their nose up at. And if you can afford to turn up your nose, keep turning it up. But for the rest of us that are looking for something respectable, right? It's not a budget machine and it's not a high-end machine. We're right down the middle. These numbers are mostly psychological. They make very little difference to most people in the real world. 95% of the people that use computers will never tell the difference between 2,300 and 15,000. It ultimately is milliseconds. So you'd have to be one hell of an enthusiast or hardcore user. And in that case, I hope you have a wallet to match your attitude. That's all I'm saying. So it's perfectly reasonable at this price point. And then here, if we look at our first, under the default power profile, Cinebench results, we've got our CPU multi-core result numbers here, the single core here. And if we follow this row, we can see maximum temperatures during the 20-minute testing cycle. And it sits good. And yeah, you could hear the fan when it was running, but it wasn't loud. But it definitely cranked up, when it was doing parts of this test like it's supposed to. And then the other question is, what about the drive? What kind of drive? You say it's like PCIe Gen 3 by 2 performance, but what is it? Well, it's likely some brand, some knockoff brand, generic, that doesn't have to charge the name brand tax that Samsung does, or Western Digital or Seagate. So you have a no-name brand, it doesn't work as well. It's not really proven to have built up a reputation in the world of drives. So they're very inexpensive, and maybe one day they will become a brand name. Look at Lucky Gold Star. Remember Gold Star? That's LG today. Gold Star was like Emerson. It was considered as a cheap knockoff brand, but you could get a VCR for, $150 cheaper than other manufacturers like Panasonic and Sony. And they worked fine. Now today, LG's right up there with Samsung when people think about quality television. So it wasn't always that way. This could be true for this manufacturer. Whoever TWSC is, I've never heard of them. And it claims to be PCIe 3 by 4, even though we're in a Gen 4 socket. They did not put a Gen 4 drive in here. I think we're in a Gen 4 socket. But a proper, well-made, high-end Gen 3 by 4 drive, like a Samsung 970 or something like that, you'll easily hit about 3,400 megabytes a second. We're nearly half of that. So that's why it's running like it's by 2. But it says here it's in by 4 mode, right? It says it supports by 4 and it's communicating in by 4. However, the controller in the RAM or the NAND chips, they're not capable of running at that speed. So they're the choke point. Even though the interface is capable of carrying more data, the actual NAND chips cannot do it. And that's why it runs so slow. It's a little misleading when it says it's by 4. They're not lying. It's just the rest of the components on that circuit board cannot keep up with by 4 speeds. So it's working in a similar performance level as a by 2. If I take a USB 3 flash drive and I plug it into a USB 2 port, it's only going to run at USB 2 speeds, even if the USB flash drive says it's USB 3. If I buy one of those cheap Micro Center USB flash drives that claim to be USB 3 and I plug it in and I'm only getting USB 2 speeds, even though it says I'm in USB 3, it's because the internal components are only capable of running at that maximum speed, even though the controller that's plugging in is USB 3. It's a little deceitful, but they're not lying. They're just they're letting you know the technical what's the word? The technical capability is seen and will be acknowledged as USB 3, but when you actually use it, your performance is going to be like USB 2. But that's why that 1 gig flash drive, 1 gig, that's why the 128 gig flash drive was only $6 at Micro Center. And the SanDisk version of that same drive is like $40. There's a big performance difference, and they both say they're USB 3, and they're both telling the truth, but not the entire story. Yeah. And Mara says we've got email. All right. Well, before we get started with this, let's check email real quick. Thank you to our friend Buster, who sends us a $14 Amazon gift card just prior to the show starting, as always, in lieu of Super Chat. Thank you, Buster. And our friend Luke Greenia with a $25 PayPal contribution, also in lieu of Super Chat, says, here's a little something to help you out. Right on. Well, thank you, Luke. And of course, as always, thank you to Buster. Let's go ahead and start. Let's go into BIOS. Let's change our power profile. And let's start Cinebench R23. So I think the first thing I want to do is put it into the efficient, quiet, low power mode. That means it costs less to run this as it's sucking up power from the wall. Even in its balanced mode, it's not going to cost as much to run as a desktop, but we can save even more and prevent the machine from ever really being overworked. So if you're like an average employee in a corporate office, real estate agent, dental office, lawyer's office, you don't need performance mode. Who are you kidding? So if you've got multiple employees and so many people have an attitude about how they need the best and the most, but very few of those people who say that actually use it. So when you're the one in charge of all the expenses at the corporation, that's your job to save the company some money. And that makes the company more profitable, which means they can hire more people, or people can be promoted and get raises. You should want what the company wants. If you want to do well, there's a better chance that you're going to do well at that company if the company is doing well. But if you're arguing and fighting with your bosses that your computer's not powerful enough, and then they end up getting that to you, and your productivity isn't really marginally increased at all, you just cost the company money that will ultimately cost you money and everybody else. So that's why I say a lot of times what's good for corporate America is always good for consumers, but not the other way around. So let me go over here. First of all, let's jump over to this screen. And what I need to do is get into the BIOS and change our power profile. Unfortunately, there's no like button or dial. Some computers have a power profile button you can press, which is a lot more convenient. The Ace Magic Tank, for example, or the Minisforum G7 are a couple of examples of that. But when we're looking at budget machines, which neither of those are, this is a budget machine, so you're not going to have these fancy buttons. And these are added features that are optional, that are elective and voluntary, that cost more. And if our goal is to get the computer cheaper so we can sell more of them, we're not going to add a button or a dial that probably creates support calls more than it helps anybody. And it does look like I have missed the delete button. So that's okay. When we get back into Windows here, this will give you an example of how long this takes to boot. It's probably around 13 seconds or faster than that. And what I'm going to do is I'll just go here under the Start menu, under Settings, and then we'll hit Windows Update over here. And then I will click on Advanced Options right there, Recovery, Restart Now for Advanced Startup Menu. And that'll give us our safe boot options and things like that. Similar to what we had in Windows 98 and Windows XP, only it's changed now, right? Go back to that same thing. We're trying to keep you up to date. This is how you do it today. This was not an option 15 years ago. What we're doing today is new, relatively new, and if you know how to do it, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and frustration. It really gives people the impression you know what you're doing. But if you do things the old-fashioned way, you might be showing your hand. All right, so let's see what the menu says here. We want to troubleshoot, and we want to go to Advanced, and we want to boot to the BIOS or UEFI firmware, and then hit Restart. Now when it restarts without pressing any keys, it'll just restart into the BIOS. Once we're in the BIOS, we'll look for the performance options, see what our choices are. We should have 3, a low, medium, and high. And right there it says Power Mode Select in white. It's already selected. Look at that. Is my mouse working? No, my mouse does not work in here. So I just hit Enter because it's already highlighted in white. Yes, we have quiet and we have performance. So let's choose quiet, and then let's save and exit, or save and reset. And now when we boot into Windows, we'll start Cinebench R23, and while that runs, I'll say hello to everybody. We'll talk about the Windows and Office keys and just kind of bide our time for that test to finish on the multi-core, then do the single core, and then reboot again, change the performance mode into from quiet into performance. We'll repeat and see the difference between all 3 of the screenshots. This will take approximately 45 minutes. And as you can see, not exactly the most riveting video to make, but when you're watching people review computers and you're not seeing how they're doing it, are you just assuming they spent hours and hours and hours doing all these tests and are showing you the best result, or are they showing you the only result? How thorough are their tests? And if they're spending days reviewing one computer, well, it's highly unlikely they're going to be making content more than 2 videos a week. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of editing. It's a lot of time. So when I show you what's involved in this, I do so that you have an idea when you're watching these review videos that somebody that's going through all of the testing is likely unable to produce more than 2 videos a week. So I would rather produce 4 or 5 videos a week, or even sometimes 7 videos a week, instead of be tied up in a bunch of theoretical testing that simulates reality. And when do you quit? When do you know you've got enough data? You just decide. There's no real rhyme or reason to it other than that feels pretty good. That's good enough. And that's why there's a big inaccuracy between simulation and reality when it comes to evaluating computers. I can evaluate a computer relatively quickly by comparison because I'm only looking at what matters in the practical sense. Let's go ahead and start this here. We've got CPU core temperatures there. Because I ran this before, it's remembered my settings. Here's where we're idling at right now. We are in the quiet mode, which means low power. Let's go ahead and start the test. We'll bring up our temps while the test runs. And during the first couple minutes of this test, it's going to get really hot. About as hot as it will reach after the first 2 minutes, in my experience. So we're watching our current temps, and then this row right here where it says maximum. That's going to hold any peak temperature. Even if it hits it for a millisecond, it'll peak it out, and then it'll stay until another temperature higher replaces it. So this isn't the temperature it's running at right now. Could be, but it's just, at any point, the hottest each of these cores has become during the entire process of the test. So while that runs, let me jump back over to, let's bring up camera 1 here. And I guess I could put camera 1 down on the lower left. There we go. That way we can keep an eye on what's going on over here at the same time. And I'm not just a disembodied voice. All right, let me get over to the chat room now. And we'll say hello to everybody here. Let's see who's joining us today. Oh, I didn't bring my glasses, did I? I need my glasses because I can't see so good. Okay, Jonathan Fells says hello. John Williams and Sean Skinner. Bike Man and Richard DeFries, 3D Everything, and Andrew C. 2026. There's Mark Gaines saying hello, along with Ben Laird. Marlena, our channel administrator and chat moderator, hanging out with everybody there today, as always. There's Andy W6AD and Luke Greenia saying hello. John Lewis saying hello, along with Dennis K. Andrew with a £1 super chat. Thank you, Andrew. Mark Leibowitz saying hello from Chicago. David Herzog joins us in the chat. If you're watching this video live, we strongly encourage you to engage in conversation with our community and myself, or you're only getting half of the content. The other half of this video is in the chat room. And if you missed it, well, then, we're not excluding you. You are excluding yourself. That's your choice. But these videos are so much more enjoyable when you're a part of the community. So if you're watching live, please join us in the live chat room. You'd be surprised at all the new friends you'll make, and you'll end up coming back just for the community. You won't come back for me. You'll come back for them. And you will be part of them. Why would you not want to do that? Let's see, who else? Tony Aindow says hello. ICT Minger. Hello, everyone. Hope we are all okay in this lovely community. Well, thank you. Welcome in. There's Picard and Teddy Boy saying hello. Jim Kenny says hello. Dustin Fuller joining us. There's some conversation about minis. Talking with Mark Leibowitz. Mark is the one that actually recommended we try the M8, and I just didn't have the budget or the interest in it at that time. But then as things slowed down in the industry and we're looking to buy some equipment so we can continue to make video reviews of these mini PCs, it just so happened I'm scrolling through Amazon and I saw it and I went, I think this is the one Mark was telling me about. And sure enough, I went back, looked at the email, this is the one. So we ordered it, we started reviewing it, we ran out of time. We're picking it up today. And Mark said, I sell these to my clients, and I don't have a client that needs one yet, but I will. Can I buy it from you when you're done with it? Because Mark did that, because he's showing us support in that way, we took his money, he's already paid for it, so when we're done with this today, it'll be boxed up and shipped out to Mark next week. He can sell it to a client. It's good to go. We haven't changed anything other than updating Windows and drivers, and of course, he's a computer tech professionally, so he might end up wiping it, doing it himself. We're all that way, right? So it's fine. But we took his money then that we used to pay for this, and we bought the K15 that's supposed to be here today or tomorrow. And that adds to another video review we can do, which is another really good potential deal, depending on how much money you're willing to spend for how much power. It's right in that same $400 price point. Some of the computers, like when we first reviewed this and I showed you the Wowie P8 was $129, I couldn't believe how cheap that price was. And I told you guys, I said, yeah, you got to put your own RAM and storage in this. And we've already reviewed the Wowie P8, which came with RAM and storage at that time. And it was more than $129. Let me reassure you that with RAM and storage, even back then, it was still about a $300 or $350 mini PC. So the fact that you could buy the same mini PC without the RAM and storage for $129 seemed way too cheap. Well, I shouldn't, I warned you, because now that same mini PC without RAM or storage today, $149.99. So in just a couple days, that price adjusted $20 more. If you didn't act when I told you, then you missed it. That doesn't mean it won't come down again, but who knows? I knew that was too cheap. And I'm surprised it didn't sell out. But because it didn't sell out, they raised the price. So there you go. With these GMKtecs, look at how it said, this is only available for Prime members. This isn't going to be available at this price probably for very long. They're either going to sell out, or there's some other reason they're reserving this $100 off. That's a significant savings just for Prime members. That'll almost cover your Prime membership for the year. Of course, there's other mini PCs around this price range that are similar, some a little better, some a little worse, depending on what you think is better or worse. Does the fact it have an OCulink port, or that it has an OCulink port, make it more appealing? Or do you not care either way? In which case, you could probably save a little money by getting a computer that doesn't include that. Maybe you don't want USB4. You could probably save a little money. Maybe you don't want a metal case. You're happy with plastic. That could save you a little bit of money. If you don't want dual RJ45s in the back, you just need the one, you could save a little money. So for what you're getting here, for not much more money, is a solid deal. In fact, it may even be cheaper than others less equipped. So then the debate is, well, even though I don't care about dual LAN or OCulink or USB4, it's still the same price or cheaper than something else that doesn't contain all of that. And if my personal biggest complaint is it's not a very attractive computer, I can get over that real quick when I'm paying the bill. It doesn't bother me. I'm not staring at the computer. I'm staring at the monitor. I'm not staring at this. So this could look like, I don't know, an unattractive artifact. I could cover it. I could stick it in a corner where I don't have to look at it. It's not that bad. But even if it was the most elegant and attractive looking mini PC, what am I going to do? Stare at it all day? We're here to get something done, right? That's usually why people have a computer. They want to get on Facebook or other social media. They want to watch YouTube videos. They want to use email. They want to pay bills online. Who cares what it looks like? Now, if it's noisy, if it's distracting for some reason, that's a different story. But if you go to buy a Tesla and you don't want it in white or in black, any other color is going to cost you $1,000 to $3,000 just to change the color. You want red? $3,000. And they'll say, well, it's harder to apply the paint. It costs more money. It doesn't cost that much more money. It's all about marketing. If people want the color red, we're going to charge them for it, and they will pay the money. Absolutely, they will pay it. That's why they do it that way. But if you want white or black, well, I mean, we have to paint the car. So by default, we'll paint them white and black, and then that's built into the price already. You don't know what that price is. It's part of everything else. They don't separate it out. So if you look at, well, they might separate it out, but it's not accurate. So if you look at the different colors, depending on how much money the marketing company rates the colors, it's very, very subjective. Well, red is most desirable, so we'll crank that up $3,000. But blue, it's kind of in the middle, so that'll be $2,000. But it doesn't have anything really in relation to the cost of the paint, not proportionally. It's psychological marketing, and people pay it. And if you want to pay that because you want a better looking computer in a different color, look, B-Link came out with a computer that was orange. And I was telling Mara, I really want that orange computer. And she goes, why? It's ugly. I go, because I've never seen an orange computer before. Yeah, but why? Are you going to use it? No, I'd like to have it on display. It doesn't have enough power for me, but it's really cool looking. If you go on eBay today and you look for that GTR 6 in orange, it sells more today for more money than it did when it was new. They made 4 different colors of it. But the orange one is the one people want. The orange one is the one that gets more money, and the orange one, people pay it. We're not making that video today. We're making a video with, I'd like a really good computer for the least amount of money. Where do we start? This is where we start, right here. Because I'm pretty confident our Cinebench tests are going to be fine. And we'll find out if I'm wrong. Obviously, we're live. I didn't realize that was covering up. And that's why I say, to me, it's not a very attractive machine. But when you're talking about practical, well, how much can I get for the money? Let's not screw around here. Every dime and every penny matters. Okay, well, if that matters more to you, then you'll be willing to make some sacrifices. And here, the sacrifices you're making are very few because it's really well equipped. Again, I have to emphasize, having soldered on RAM is not a sacrifice. It's a benefit, and people just, they're so locked into old school mentality, they will not let that go, or they're just extreme enthusiasts who don't mind spending extra to get parts that are slower, more expensive. You got to deal with sockets, you got to deal with part failures. All of that goes away for the most part when it's soldered on. Faster memory, more reliable memory. No, you can't upgrade it, but why would you want to? You don't need to do that anymore except under extreme use case scenarios, which I assume you have extreme use case budgeting for. But if you're not in that position, which most of us that own a computer are not in that position, and I mean 90% of us or better, we want that, but we can't afford that. I want a Rolls Royce. I can't afford one. I'm never going to afford one, and I will always want one. But I've learned to live without it, and everything's just fine. I haven't died because I didn't get a Rolls Royce. I haven't starved myself to death because I did get a Rolls Royce and now I can't buy food. We have to be willing to make a sacrifice for something else that we want that's more important. You can have anything you want in this life. You just can't have everything you want in this life unless you're one of the 1% of the wealthy people. That's it. So with that understanding and that practicality, we've got to be reasonable and see a value, even if it's not the best thing in the world for pennies. If it was the best thing in the world and it was pennies, people wouldn't want it. Part of the reason people want things, the more exclusive they are, the more expensive they are, the more cherished they are. But if everybody could have it, nobody cares. And that's the psychology of the marketing that's at play here. So the question is, what do you really need? Let's forget what you want. The Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want, but you'll always get what you need. Still true. Let me get back over to the chat room here real quick. How are we doing on our test? Oh, it finished already? All right. That went quick. 8427. Remember, this is the low performance, the quiet mode, and it was quiet the whole time. I didn't even notice the fan at all while I've been yabbering. Let's go ahead and do the single core test. Even though it's kind of an impractical test, what's the point of having a multi-core processor just to run it in single core mode? Let me get my screens back the way I want them. And our highest temp, oh wow, it only reached 80.7. That made a huge difference. But that's a pretty low score too. So we'll compare that to the other screenshot. In fact, I can do that right now. Let's just minimize. We'll let this continue to run. And let's close these windows. Let me pull that original Cinebench screenshot up of just the balanced mode. So in balanced mode, we were seeing a score of about 1,000 more points. So that's about almost a 10% difference in performance. And 10% isn't much, but to people online, you'd think it, you'd think they were getting 10% of $1 billion, because that's a lot of money. But 10% of $1 is only 10 cents. So I don't know why you're getting so excited over 10%. But we look at our maximum temp on the balanced mode. We hit 88.6, but in our low power mode or our quiet mode, let's pull the screen back up. So far anyway, we're 8 degrees cooler, almost 10% cooler. Isn't that interesting? You want to go 10% faster, you can go 10% hotter. That probably means much more fan noise than 10%. It's probably 30 or 40% more fan noise, but that's why I say it's not all equal and predictable like that. And if you're willing to make those sacrifices for performance, we're not telling you you're wrong, but that's not representative of the average person that goes out and looks for a computer. Most people are looking for what's cheapest, but also most capable for the money. Nobody wants to get ripped off. And we would all like to have the $10,000 gaming computer. We all would like that. But very few of us can actually afford to make that happen, or are willing to sacrifice what we would need to give up because it's not that important to us. It's a whim. It's not like I must have it. Because if you must have it, you will find a way. I guarantee it. All right, so back over to the chat. Mark Leibowitz said, my laptop is dust pink. It made my daughter giggle, but I figure if someone tries to steal it at airport security, it's got to be easier to spot than a black one. Well, not if they throw it in their backpack, right? You'll never see it. Mark Leibowitz was talking to Andy. He said, I remember when the Intel NUC came out. I first did the Intel NUC. It was the very first mini PC, and I was very skeptical about it. That was 2013. So it's been 13 years now. And that little mini NUC still works today. No parts have ever been replaced. It works exactly. It's not Windows 11 compatible, so we retired it, but it works. It boots in like 13 seconds. It's all the original parts. We upgraded it from Windows 7 to Windows 10, and then retired it at Windows 10 when it was over 10 years old because we couldn't go to Windows 11. And when it was first deployed, the person using it was just a toy. But then when the pandemic hit, they needed to remote in from home. And suddenly now, they had to be able to have the VoIP system, the Cisco VPN client, and all that software needed to be added to it so that they could work from home. clearly they don't want to go back to the office and deal with the traffic and dressing up and the office politics. They want to continue to work from home. So we said, okay, after 10 years, that little Intel NUC more than paid for itself. Replaced it with one of the last generation Intel NUCs, I think a 12th gen. And that's what they use today. So it's a lot more power than the i3 we had back then. Faster NVMe, faster Wi-Fi, faster everything. And we actually hardwired it just because the importance of that internet connection, talking to customers over the phone via VoIP through a remote connection. If that doesn't work well, they're going to be told you can't work from home anymore. You got to come back into the office. So a worthwhile investment that will more than pay for itself just in the cost of gas and the time lost sitting in traffic both ways. So that was an easy spend. But again, they don't need anything outrageous or loud that, could interfere with being on the phone, or something that's crashing because it's so high-end and so high performance when you're limited by your speed of your internet remote connection anyway. So what's the point? He said, the first time I saw a mini PC was an elderly client's brother bought her a Beelink U59. And he said about 2.5 years ago, he didn't even know minis existed. Yeah, a lot of people still don't know. Dustin Fuller joins us and says hello. Okay. We are getting through this final test. When this is done, we'll grab a screenshot. We'll save it as like Cinebench R23 quiet. That's how I know which mode I'm in. Go back in the BIOS, change it to performance, repeat the same, and look at our comparisons there. I think a lot of people online make a big difference, make a big deal rather, out of a tiny difference in performance. Look, I overclocked my computer with a $300 cooler and all these specialty parts and thermal paste and blah, 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 and all this experimentation. Spending hours and hours and hours testing until it wouldn't blue screen anymore. And then I finally found the exact edge of the cliff where any more than that, I fall off. And it's usually not more than 10%. Oh, whoop-de-doo. So you're going 10% faster. And yet you spent 100% of your time for the last 3 weeks to figure all that out, plus all the money to keep it cool. Plus you're degrading your hardware that much sooner, but somebody like that probably wouldn't keep the hardware very long because they're too intolerant. You're so demanding. And if you're a rich person, you have that kind of wealth, you can be demanding because quite frankly, if you tell somebody to do something and they don't do it, why would you argue with them? Just pay somebody else. That's fine. Don't do it. I don't care. I'm not going to waste my time. My time's more valuable. If I've got all this money, my time's worth more than yours. So if you're working for me, my time is worth more than yours. Right? You're working for me. I make the rules. I set the pay. If you don't want it, I'll find somebody else who does. That's the power that comes with wealth. You don't have to take no for an answer. You can just keep asking. You can even raise your price if need be, because you're wealthy. But a lot of people want to act like they're wealthy, but they don't have the wallet to back it up. So they're all talk. And you can be all talk. You're not breaking the law or anything. It's just when I start talking to people like that and I realize that they're being authoritarian without any authority. Look, if you try telling somebody what to do and you're not in a position of authority, you should expect resistance. Because if you have no way to back up or enforce whatever it is you're trying to tell somebody to do, it's delusional. You're out of your lane, it's disrespectful, it's abusive and bullying. So when people are wealthy and they've got the means to back up everything they say, there are repercussions. So if you don't want to do it, then you don't get paid and somebody else will be more than happy to do it for you. It's a very competitive world. And you don't have to work for anybody you don't want to work for. I hate it when people apply for a job and then they complain about the job. They work me too hard. They don't pay me enough. Well, then quit. Stop working there. It was your idea. You're the one who sent in the resume. You're the one who went on the interview. You're the one who was so eager to have the job. And now you've got the job and you don't like it. Quit. Go somewhere else. Because if you don't, and you're a pain in the butt, they'll do it for you. I got a job at Amazon, and boy, do they make you work. Oh, so you want a job where you don't have to work. Well, they make you work too hard. Yeah, said every lazy person ever who never will achieve anything in life. The people who see that challenge and they say, bring it on, those are the people who move up in the company and they become quite successful. The people who go, oh, it's just too hard. You should never have applied for that job if you didn't want to work. If you want to stand around all day and do nothing, you could go work at a slow retail store. I'll give you an example. I was at Burger King the other day. There was nobody in the place. Parking lot was empty. The employees are standing around. Those employees don't make a lot of money. They don't look happy. Then I went to In-N-Out Burger. And it wasn't a special time or a special day. They had cars out wrapped around the building in the drive-thru. We parked the car and went in, and there were lines at the counter. They had 3 registers, all of them open, 3 separate lines, all taking orders. You've got 7 or 8 people back there hustling. They're making burgers, they're cooking fries, they're working the drive-thru, they're making the shakes and all this other stuff they do, right? And the entire time that we were there, they were always dealing with someone at the drive-thru, or actually multiple people at the drive-thru, or multiple people at the counter, and it never slowed down. Never. If they get a break, it's like 3 minutes and then it's busy again. In-N-Out Burger pays their employees good money. Those employees have a smile on their face and they're happy to help you. They're not resentful. They're not, let's form a union. They're not, this place is working me too hard. You're going to bust your butt because you have to just to keep up. If you don't, you're going to have to work harder. And if you're causing everybody else to slow down, you probably aren't going to be there very long. But if you like that good pay, you know how much a manager at In-N-Out Burger makes on average? Just the manager of the store, not the owner, the manager. Over $100,000. But if you think that manager is just sitting on their butt all day, just doing paperwork, no, you don't make $100,000 at In-N-Out Burger sitting around all day doing paperwork. They're out on the floor, they're busting their butt, they're keeping the employees online, they're keeping the inventory out. It's a lot of work. It is equivalently a lot of pay. Burger King, on the other hand, we rarely see the same employee twice, and it's always empty when we go in there. Sometimes people come in, use the restroom, and they leave. So I'm sure that's happening at In-N-Out Burger too, but it's so busy you can't tell. And I'll bet you for those employees, their days go quick. You're standing around doing nothing all day. 8 hours feels like 16. But you're busy and you're just trying to keep up and you're just busting your hump trying to get everything out. That 8 hours goes by in like 20 minutes. At least it feels that way. Always better to be busy. And especially when you're getting well paid for it, or there's great opportunity that if you prove yourself worthy at that level, then management will see that and promote you. And now you don't have to learn a whole new skill set. You're already familiar with the job. Maybe you're enhancing or being added responsibilities and learning a couple new things, but overall it's 80% of everything you already know, and then you're getting paid more and you're growing, and that's better than finding another job. If you can get promoted within and work your way up to a manager, and now you're making better money than some college grads. I'm just saying, when you're applying for that job, do you really want to work at Burger King or would you rather work at In-N-Out? If those are your two choices, I think it's an easy choice to make. But then don't sit there and work at Burger King and complain about it, because that was your idea. That's all I'm trying to say. We almost done here? see how we're doing. I've got to make my screen bigger. I've got to remove the chat room for a minute so I can look at where we're at here. Oh, okay. So it is running, so the clock is run out. So right now it's actually doing the measured benchmark. And once again, I really don't hear the fans on this at all. And our temperature has gone up a little bit. Now it says 82.4. So 6 degrees, a little more than 6 degrees cooler than the balanced mode. And the question is, will it overheat in performance mode? I'm pretty sure it won't, but we'll check it. David Graham said, I mostly work for myself. I charge $100 an hour. Most things only take an hour. That's great. I mean, then in that case, your boss is your customer. In either case, you want to keep your customer and your boss happy. The difference is if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. When you're working for somebody else, though, you don't get paid if you don't do it. And you may never get paid again. When you're doing your own work and you can turn down one customer and take on a different customer instead, or you want to take a week off and go on vacation, you don't have to ask for permission. But you also won't have any paid time off. You won't have any benefits, and you won't be earning any money during that time unless you're willing to work while you're on vacation. That's the beauty of being self-employed. It's both the beauty and the ugly side. It's not all roses and butterflies. Martin Erickson says, at my workplace, we use mini PCs and servers. More and more, these mini PCs are gaining popularity. They're being dismissed because people judge books by their covers, even though we know we're not supposed to. They stereotype and they exhibit a sort of racism in the sense that there's a prejudice that does not match reality. Well, Carey, you're this kind of person, so therefore this is how you behave. No, we know that's not true. We're all unique individuals, regardless of our ethnicity or age or our gender or religious beliefs. Well, you're this religion, so therefore you're automatically pigeonholed into. It's like, no, I'm still an individual. I'm a unique individual. I am different, just like everybody else. We all have that the same, and that we're all different. And you'd be surprised when you open your eyes, if you're not doing that already, and give somebody a chance to break what you're assuming about them, to give them an opportunity to prove you right or wrong. How often you are going to be wrong, and that person isn't who you thought they were. On either side of the fence, you'd say, oh, this is a community member, and they're a good person. Okay, Cesar Chavez, right? It's like, oh, Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson, maybe. I thought I knew that person. No, apparently not. So if we just do that the other way around, right? If we automatically shoot people down before giving them a chance, we could be missing out on a wonderful friendship and knowing a wonderful person who's there for you, and you're just doing it to yourself, is all I'm saying. You're making a voluntary choice to shut somebody out who would benefit your life to have them in your life because of some stereotype. Well, that's what people do with mini PCs. They look at them and they go, there's no way that thing can compete with the desktop tower. And they're so wrong, because not only do they often defeat desktop towers, they do it at a cheaper price point, and they do it more reliably, because especially that you can't get in there and tinker with a lot of them. It's very limited. That limits how many different ways consumers can break them by monkeying around with it. So they go, oh, well, you can't monkey around with it, so I don't want it. Yeah, that's what makes it reliable, is keeping people like that out. No, darn it, I want to harm myself. I don't want a blade with a handle on it. Just give me the blade. Okay. I've never cut myself. I don't use handles on my pots and pans. I just grab them with oven mitts. Okay. That's crazy, but you knock yourself out. It's ridiculous, but some people put their pride and their ego above and beyond anything that makes any logical sense. Some humans just behave that way, and they're not in control of it. They don't seem to mind. And if it bothers me, I just In that case, I know enough about that person that anything else doesn't matter. If we can't even meet at a baseline on that, there's got to be a line in the sand I'm drawing going, okay, keep them over there. Stay over there. It looks like our test is done. Let me jump back over here real quick. Let's turn off camera 1 and let's see what our numbers are on this. It looks like 1440 on the single core, 8427 of course, and 82.4, 82.5. None of that's really changed. And that was just on, looks like core 3. So with that, let's go ahead and grab a screenshot. So I'll hit function, print screen. Then I'll open up Paint. And then I'll click Edit and Paste. Beautiful. And I'll say File, Save As, a JPEG picture on the desktop. You see we've already got one here. And all I'm going to do is change the word default to quiet. And I don't have to type all that again. Hit save. Close, close, close. And so here is default, and here is quiet. And now we'll do performance. So we'll go back to settings, Windows Update, Advanced, Recovery, and Advanced Startup. It's very repetitive, this job. People say, wow, you type really fast. I go, yeah, I've been typing since 1980, every day. I can't think of a day where I wasn't at a keyboard for some reason. Repetitive actions are what get you experience and skill. If I sat down at a piano and played it 4 times, it probably doesn't sound good. But if I played it 4 times a day, every day for 35, 45 years, probably sound pretty damn good. Even if I wasn't skilled originally, you can build skills you don't have. Some people can sit at a piano and play it by ear. Other people, they have to work at it. But if you want to achieve it, you can. We'll go to Troubleshoot, once again, Advanced Options, and UEFI Firmware Settings. So that's what I love about the human experience, is we are in our own way most of the time. We either accept things without challenging them and just live a meager life, or some of us see challenges and challenge ourselves to see what we're capable of. Even if we don't really have full faith in ourselves, we say, what the heck, let's do it. I mean, Richard Branson has almost killed himself 77 times. And he's not slowing down. He just keeps doing crazy, risky stuff. And, you know, what a life experience he's got. So again, power mode is already highlighted in white. So all I have to do is hit the enter button, since that's our default. Use the arrows, go to performance, hit enter. Then use the right arrow to go across the top to save and exit, which then says save and reset, and boot back into Windows. Now, they do sell computers that do have performance buttons that you can adjust the performance on the fly, well in Windows, no reboot required, no going into the BIOS. And you're looking at an average of about $1,000 and up for those machines. So you can have it if you want it, but you could also have 2.5 of these for the same price. So your choice. Whatever more important to you. Let's get back over to hardware info. Fire that up. And then we'll start Cinebench one more time, and we'll get our third and final benchmark completed here. And we'll start with our multi-core. That window back. Close that out. Okay, and so we can see what's going on. All right, with that, let me get back over to camera 1. There we go. Now, we are very lucky, and I feel honored to work with VIP-URCDKEYs. The reason I say that It's because in my line of work, I have to come up with Windows and Office license keys that are priced comparatively to what Dell and HP are selling them for. Otherwise, I'm never going to sell another computer again because I can't get the software, and the customer's going to say, what good is this without Windows on it? Oh, well, you have to provide your own Windows. That's $200. Well, now you're way more expensive than just going to Best Buy. So I have to find a way that I can put legitimate legal license copies of Windows and Office on offer it to my clients. So I'm a one-stop shop. If you want to order a computer from me, I can get it with the RAM, the storage, the processor, mini or full size, RGB or not, desktop, laptop, whatever it is you want. I can get it for you with whatever operating system and whatever version of Office. As long as it's, a Windows version that's supported. Office version, I don't really care if it's supported or not. Right now, there's really no concern with viruses and stuff going around for Office. It was happening for a while, but it's not very common anymore. If there's a resurgence of it, I'll change my opinion. But for right now, Windows Defender is also so good. Even Microsoft officially stated in a blog post, using third-party antivirus is a waste of money. That Windows Defender is so good, there is no practical reason you would get any improvement from a third-party antivirus solution. If you just keep your computer updated and well maintained, Windows Defender takes care of it 100% without using all the resources these third parties require or charging you anything additional. And if you still want to use third party, go right ahead, but you're wasting your time and you're wasting your money because Windows Defender is that good. You don't need to do that anymore. Times have changed. I'm glad Microsoft finally came out and said it, because we've been saying this for a number of years now, how good Windows Defender is. Now, I still use the paid version of Malwarebytes, but to be honest, I might stop because it's just not flagging anything for my clients or even for myself like it used to. Once in a while, a Google search result, Malwarebytes will say this is not a safe website. But I would argue that even if it wasn't a safe website, it wouldn't have caused any harm because of the Windows Defender security system. So they do work together, Malwarebytes, the paid version, and the free Windows Defender. I run them both, but more and more, I'm utilizing Malwarebytes less and less. So why pay for it if it's not really doing anything? But viruses, they tend to, they go in trends where suddenly everybody's getting routers hacked. And then suddenly everybody's getting, some website, 23andMe or something gets hacked, and then they get all this DNA stuff. And then in the news later, maybe it's Microsoft Office is getting hacked. And then it all just kind of stops. Like in the sense that it's always happening, but there's a point where it's like a trend and it's happening to a lot of people versus just one-off here and there. And so for the most part, I don't have any problem selling an older version of Office like 2016 or 2019 because they still have a license you can pay for. You're not on a subscription. And I think there's one last version of Office, 2024, which is the most expensive, even at my cost. I think it's like $80, which is pricey. That is a licensed, not a subscription. But it's moving more and more to that subscription state, which also then requires the Microsoft account, which has its own benefits for updates and security and file sharing and file backups. That's a great choice for some people. Now, that being said, when I'm looking for Windows license keys and I'm looking online, most of them don't meet my requirements in the sense that they're either fly-by-night, never seen them before, I make the purchase and they disappear. There's no support. I don't get what I paid for. The key doesn't work. It's like, here's a key, and it's like, okay, I guess that's for me to figure out what version. And, oh, it's for Windows 11 Pro. Turns out I installed Windows 11 Pro for workstations, which is a pain in the butt because it's got all these group policy settings that change how you network it and everything else. So when I found the parent company of VIP-URCDKEys, I couldn't believe it. I said, there's no way this is right. I double checked. I'm asking people their advice. Nobody advised me to these people. They're just, who cares if it's pirated, right? I care. I don't want to make some money today only to have a job lost to tomorrow. I got to think ahead. I don't have a choice. I don't want to lose my house. So what a stupid way to lose your house. I made $5 more. Worth it. Anyway, so it's got to be on the up and up. And your VIP-URCDKEYs, they accept PayPal. That was really important to me for security reasons. We're making international transactions. There's not a lot of legal recourse I have. But with PayPal being an international company, there's a little better peace of mind and convenience that at the very least, they won't be able to steal any money from me like they could with a credit card number. Then on top of that, they have 6 months of free support. And on top of that, no matter when you buy your license key from them, you'll get an email within 2 minutes. It doesn't matter if it's the middle of the night, a holiday, the response time is always the same. And it contains an email with the link to the product and your license code. And if you ever lose that and you need it again, you just sign back into their website and look at your purchase history. It keeps your purchase history indefinitely. So 10 years from now, you want to go pull that code up and the download link, it'll still be there. So how do you find the links that I'm talking about? They're in the video notes of every video, every live video I make. And I've got a video here to demonstrate it to you. So if we look at a video we made last month, let me pull that up. So when I scroll down, and it says right down here in this little box, you see it says more. Then you click on that little box. This works on the mobile platform the same way. You're going to get all the details for all the links we talked about in that video. And that includes these license codes. It also includes a coupon code that gives you an additional 25% off. I'm not making a commission on that. If you use the coupon code or you don't, I don't get paid either way. But you can save 25% if you want to. You don't have to use the coupon code. You can pay the additional 25%. I don't make, I can know how to stress this, I don't make any commission on this. So what you pay has nothing to do with me. I assume you'd want 25% off, but maybe you don't care. If you want the 25% off, just put the coupon code of Carey in there, and you'll see that price just dropped. And then hit the submit order button. And then you're going to get your payment options, right? You want to pay with a credit card, you can. The first option shows PayPal, which takes all the credit cards anyway. But then individually, you've got Visa, MasterCard, and Google Pay, and Mint, and a few others there. Then you pay it, and then you're going to get an email in about less than 2 minutes on average. And everything you need to know is in the email. If you run into any problems, they got your back. They got 24/7 support. You can just chat to them. You can reach out to us directly if you have any problems. So it's pretty rare that you'll ever find a content creator stand behind anything they're promoting, even their own merch. A lot of times they're like, well, if you have a problem with the merch, too bad. That didn't work well for Linus Tech Tips when they tried that. So they ended up getting a lot of pushback about their merch, that they wouldn't back it up, warranty it right. So they didn't do it because they wanted to. Their viewers forced them to do the right thing. You don't have to force me. I'm doing the right thing right out of the gate. I'm not waiting for somebody to call me to the carpet. There's nothing to call me to the carpet for. So that's why I'm honored and thrilled to have them with us, because they're such a stand-up company and everything is legit. And you're not going to be abandoned. And I'm more than happy to stand up and put my reputation on the line that you're going to have a good experience with them. And if there's any problem, they're going to take care of you. And just to give you that extra reassurance that in such a scenario that doesn't happen, you reach out to me directly. Just trust me, if I got enough people reaching out to me directly, we aren't working with them anymore. So if they want to continue to work with us and they want to continue to earn, to make sales because of our audience, then they're going to treat our audience well. It's not worth it to not honor, even if you have to give somebody's money back, it'll still be cheaper for you to do that than for us to say, hey, we can't endorse you anymore. We got too many complaints, and they will lose how much money? No one will never know, but it'll be a big loss that just calculates up bigger and bigger every day. And what benefit does that do you? Now we don't offer the keys at a discount and you're on your own to figure it out. That sucks for all of us. So if you're wondering what's the motivation behind it, it's common sense. They want to stay in business. They want to make more sales tomorrow. Scammers, they only want to get money today, and then they're going to go scam somebody else tomorrow. And there's no shortage of scammers on the internet. I don't need to tell you that. So we're just looking out for each other. You guys are talking about antivirus and cloning software. Yeah, a lot of free alternatives out there. There's Frankie B joining us here in the chat. You know, we sent Frankie a mini PC. He actually paid for it, to be fair. And he reached out to me the other day that he's getting a secure boot authentication error or something like that. I've never seen it before. And it's been working fine all this time. Hold on a second. I heard the fan quiet down. That fan was getting loud, and I was talking over it. I just realized when it went away, the Cinebench finished. So let me just jump over here, and I'll continue my story here in just a minute. Let's go full screen here. And it looks like, oh yeah, we got 5 degrees hotter from the balanced. Right, we were at 88.6 or something before on balanced, and 82 on quiet, and now 93.1 on performance, and you know, even hit 90 on a couple of different cores here. But it didn't get too hot. It didn't crash, and our score went up again by less than 10%, as did our temps. Let's go ahead and do the single core, and while that runs, I will continue telling you about Frankie's scenario there. So Frankie's got an error that says, let me look. Frankie, where are you? There he is. Took a picture of the screen. Great thing to do, so I can see it. He's got a big red box that says, invalid signature detected. Check secure boot policy and setup. Now, he didn't change anything. So he goes into the BIOS, and he goes over to the secure boot section, and it won't let him select anything in the secure boot section. Even the things not everything is clickable, but the things that are supposed to be clickable, he can't click on, he can't use the arrow keys and select any of them. But he can go into other subsections of the BIOS, and the arrow keys and selections work fine. So it's not like his keyboard's not working or that the computer froze up. And I said, well, that's a weird one, Frankie. I'm not quite sure what to do about that. You can unplug the computer, leave it off for a couple minutes. Unplug everything you don't need to have, like USB flash drives or external drives. Just plug in the keyboard, the monitor, power, and turn it on, and then see if you can get in the BIOS and make the change. Nope. You can use the little reset BIOS pinhole, get a little paper clip, straighten it out, and poke it in there. And yeah, I did that. He goes, now the date and time is all reset. And when he sets the date and time and reboots, it doesn't save the date and time. I said, okay, things are getting a little weird. He's like, well, could it be the CMOS battery? Well, no, not usually. The CMOS battery only provides power when the computer's physically unplugged. If it's plugged in but turned off, it's still draining a little bit of power from the wall. You won't be using the battery. Something else is going on that's not adding up. And because he's so far away, and because it's not booting, I can't look at it remotely. So I said, if you mail it in, we'll do a diagnostic live here on camera. And if we fix it, we'll send it back. And if we don't fix it, we'll send you something else equal to or better than that computer. So he said, great, and he's supposed to let me know when he's going to ship it, and we'll ship it. I recommended FedEx has what they call a one rate, which includes a free box. And so for about $30, you get the box, you get 2-day express shipping. He can ship it without insurance and no signature, because we're not in a neighborhood where anybody steals packages. And we've got cameras everywhere. So anyway, you can save money that way. So for about $30, shipping all the way from the opposite side of the country to Phoenix, 2-day shipping, $30. So we'll have it within 2 days after he ships it, unless he misses the outgoing shipment that day, I think FedEx usually picks up around 5 o'clock. So if he goes in after 5 o'clock or so close to 5 o'clock that they don't have time to pack it, get it to the delivery driver, then it'll happen at 5 o'clock the next day, and it's 2 days from when it's picked up. So at the worst, it could be 3 days. Anyway, when we get it, I mean, we're looking for content anyway. So we'll take it, and we'll get it. We'll make it right for Frankie. Frankie's been very generous and very supportive, and anything we can do for Frankie, it's really enjoyable when somebody appreciates the quality of your work, versus some people feel like, hey, I paid you for this, it's got a problem, what the hell? It's like, hold on, it's not my fault. I don't know what happened. And it doesn't make me want to work for people like that. It's like, all right, I'm going to take care of you because I have to. But when you have people like Frankie, I want to take care of them because I want to. So it's all a matter of, getting what you give. And it's unfortunate that he's even having this experience. That he's got the problem is a minis forum NAB7, which has been a rock solid machine. I'm really surprised to hear about it. But these things happen. What can you do? So hopefully, I mean, unless Frankie figures it out on his own between now and then, we'll have it here soon enough, and we'll diagnose it live on camera, and we'll figure it out. And if we can't figure it out, we'll give Frankie something in return. I'd say equal to that, but it'll be better than equal. It'll be, just for the inconvenience, we'll set him up with something even better. And by better, I mean a higher end processor, maybe more ports or options, but trying to keep the same form factor. And if we need to get to that bridge, I'll talk to Frankie about what his options are, what he wants to do, because I'm not going to make that decision for him. I'll give him some options. But if we can fix it, then we just do that and send it back, and everything's cool. So one way or another, because you're dealing with me, I take care of my people take care of me. And that's how the world should all go around. We can count on each other. Nobody's taking advantage of anybody else. Why can't that just be the normal process in our society? I don't know. But it certainly makes me appreciate it that much more. Did he load the BIOS defaults? Yeah, he said he loaded BIOS defaults. Jim Kinney said a tower ships for $100, but a mini ships for $30. No, a tower ships for about $200. It depends on how heavy the tower is, how big it is, how much space it's going to take in the truck. The box is more money. The packing is more money. If you're going to have FedEx box it. I usually have FedEx box it. So when I sent Luke Greenia, when Luke Greenia bought Project Zero, it was almost $200 to ship that across the country from Phoenix to Vermont. And it arrived with some minor damage in the sense that the CPU fan had fallen off. He was, technically savvy enough to easily fix that himself, but what do you do? You pay all that money, and then I don't even think it arrived on time. I think it was a day late on top of that. And it's a big, heavy box. That was, I want to say it was a little over $200. Now, if I'm sending something like a Corsair 200R and I'm only sending it to one state over, like California, then it could be like $80. But the box and packing still cost me the same. But a Corsair 200R is also lighter weight and a smaller box than that Project Zero was. That was a lot heavier and a lot bigger. So 3 things you got to worry about when shipping that you may not consider is how much space will that box take up in the truck. And I'll give you an example. When I went to ship a 200R at FedEx and they gave me the price, it was like $170. And I said, that can't be right. That's more than twice what I paid last time. What size box are we using? They're like, oh, we're using a 24 by 24. Well, can't we use a 22? We've always used 22s. Well, then you're not going to get the extra packing. Right, but it's a double-walled box, and there is packing there. Yeah, but you really should have more, right? It depends who you talk to at FedEx. The manager at the FedEx store likes to charge me the most amount possible. Nobody else does that. And I'm not saying they're a bad person, but they're always like, when something can fit in a smaller box,
the manager's always trying to tell me it needs the bigger box, so you really need the extra packing. Well, that bigger box takes up more space on the truck. That bigger box needs more packing. So if I've already boxed the computer, like even a mini computer, will go back in this box. This box already has all the packing it needs. I'm just putting an outer box around it, and I'll just put some filler to keep it from sliding around, slapping around, that's all. It's already packed. Now, if it were just a raw computer wrapped in bubble wrap, then I agree, you need to have the extra space. But we're already in the Corsair 200R original case box with styrofoam and everything. We're laying it down, putting it into a second box. So I say, can you just grab a 22 and show me? So they grab a 22 and they lay the box inside of it, and they go, we can do that, right? And they go, yeah. That only lowers your price based on the price of the box and the 2 inches extra, and it brought it down like $20 or $30. But I said, now wait a minute. We don't need it 22 inches tall. We only need it about 14 inches tall. Can you cut the box down? You cut the corners and fold them in. And now the box is still 22 inches wide and 22 inches long, but it's only 14 inches tall. And then they put that in the computer, and then the price drops to $80. So how far is it going? How big is it? How much space will it, regardless of the weight, how much space is this going to consume in the delivery truck? And then finally, how much does it weigh? And so all three of those factors, that's why I like the FedEx one rate. With one rate, it doesn't matter where you send it. It's the same price if it'll fit in one of the three sizes. They have a small, medium, and large box. The box is free. You don't pay for it. If you need packing, they overcharge for that, but it's fine. And it's 2-day express, which is often cheaper and faster than ground. And the quicker we can get it out of the hands of the delivery person, the less likely there will be for damage. If it takes 7 days to get a package for you, that's 7 days for that package to be mishandled. If it takes 2 days to get the package to you, they have 2/3 less time to drop or kick or smash that package. Let's get it out of their hands as quickly as possible. So you get it there faster, get it there cheaper, and spend less money with the one rate. And it's a lot of people don't know about the FedEx one rate. It's a great deal. Unfortunately, one rate, the biggest box is going to be about like that. So you're not going to be shipping a full-size tower or a mid-size. I could probably maybe fit something like this in there, maybe at the most. And it doesn't matter how much it weighs. It doesn't matter how far it's going. That's why it's called one rate. It fits in the box, it ships one flat rate, wherever you want it to go, in 2 days. That is a hell of a deal. So with mini PCs, one of the reasons why it's $30 is I'm getting the box, I'm getting the packing, which is like an additional $3 or $4 for some RAM pack. No, I just put the $100 insurance on it. I've never had a package lost. And anytime you've ever filed insurance, or me anyway, there's never been an honored claim ever. It's procrastination and paperwork and excuses. So it's not worth it. Now, if I'm sending something that's brand new and it's worth, $500 or $1,000 or whatever, different story. But for a $400 computer, you just throw it in the box. It'll be fine. We've never had a package go missing. And if it is damaged, they won't pay the claim. Not in my experience. It's all excuses. And it's a lot of paperwork, and my time's worth way more than what the claim will pay. So I don't even bother. That's just throwing money down the toilet to pay for insurance. And then finally, whether or not we need a signature. And that depends on, I basically ask the person buying the computer, do you want a signature on this? Because it costs like an additional $4 or something like that, which means they're not going to just leave it at your porch. Most people these days, they're like, no, they can leave it at the porch, it's fine. Or they can bring it in, the apartment complex is fine. So why pay for that? It's just an inconvenience when they missed a delivery and they find out they have to wait for another attempt, or they have to go to the FedEx store and pick it up. Because we could have just shipped it to their FedEx store and just, that by default, you have to show ID to pick it up, and then we save the $5 or $4 for the signature. They don't charge extra to ship it from one FedEx store to another FedEx store. You still pay the one rate, But for somebody to pick it up on their own whenever they want to make the trip to their local FedEx store, they'd have to show their driver's license or identification to release the package, and that replaces the signature for delivery confirmation, and that way you don't get any porch pirates or theft of packages. So for that reason, all those reasons, minis are cheaper to send. And there's less to break in a mini too. They're far more robust. I've never had a mini PC arrive damaged. So all things to keep in mind. Ron Toomey says, do you know how much to just ship a motherboard in its original motherboard box? You could potentially use the one rate box of the appropriate size. But if you want to ship it cheap, you could use USPS. If you box it yourself, maybe you've got an Amazon box you want to reuse, and you're going to pack it yourself, tape it up yourself, and address it yourself, and you take it to the United States Post Office and you just ship that via priority mail, you're probably around $15. If you want to go FedEx 2-day express, let them provide the box to you. And again, you would pack it yourself. Or let's go the extreme. You do what I do. You just bring the motherboard in the box and you hand it to them and you say, I want you to put this in a box with packing and ship it to this address. They print up the label. You know, I print out the address and then they look at my printout and they type it in and it comes out on their official label. They ask me before they stick the label on, did the address I type in match the piece of paper you just gave me? And I put my glasses on and I look at the screen and I look and I go, yeah, everything looks good. Or I catch an error, I let them know, because if it gets misdelivered, now it's my fault. So I take that very seriously. Make sure there's no transverse numbers or something is a street or a lane. A lot of times they miss apartment or lot numbers. And I'm like, hey, this doesn't have the lot number. Now, maybe that prevents the delivery. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know how big of a facility this is. I don't know if it's a lot number. I don't know if it's an apartment. But it was specifically put on the address by the person that I'm sending it to. So I'm assuming you need to put it on the address. And FedEx will always, oh, yeah, you're right. How about now look at it. Does it look right? Okay, it does. I hit the green button. We're done. And all I got to do is swipe the credit card. And it's usually, for something like that, it's around $30, right in that ballpark, to let them do it all. But you can wait in a longer line with more limited hours, do everything yourself, and go to the United States Postal Service. Or you could pay the same amount, basically, as UPS. But UPS won't do it in 2 days at that price. Their boxes are double-walled. I don't ship via UPS. Whenever I see shipping damage, it's almost universally only the UPS carrier that causes any shipping damage that I've experienced. I don't really experience it with FedEx. I don't experience it generally with the United States Post Office. So those are all the reasons I use FedEx. I don't want the callbacks. I don't want the customer angry just to save a few dollars. And with the one rate box, it's actually saving me money. And I can get in and out of FedEx much faster than the post office. FedEx is open till 7. Our local post office was only open till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which I'm broadcasting. I don't have time to get over there. And they closed that post office down. So now I got to go even further to another post office, which again, I think they close at 5. That's going to be a tight call for me. FedEx is open till 7 o'clock at night. So I got a lot more window to get out of traffic and go later in the evening. If I miss the 5 o'clock deadline, so what? They can hold on to it in the store till 5 o'clock the next day. It'll go out. So it goes out a day later. Once it's out of my hands, it's not my problem anymore. I don't care. I just send the customer the tracking info and go, there you go. It'll be in 2 days or 3 days. Nobody's ever complained, not once. Michael Lavelle said, my motherboard cost $44 using FedEx to California from Portland, Oregon. Yeah, I don't know the circumstances of that, but it doesn't sound like you used one rate, because I don't think they have a $44 one rate. But you know, maybe the board wouldn't have fit in a one rate, or maybe you did this a while ago when they weren't offering one rate. But as a real world example, to Ron, Michael paid $44 to do what you're asking. So there's a number of variables that will affect your price. And the best person you can ask is ask the shipper directly. Don't ask me, I don't know. I can only tell you what I've shipped, but I've not shipped any motherboards. Buster says, hey everybody in the chat, I just popped in to say hi. I'm going to catch up later, but the temperature right now in Edinburgh, Scotland, 41 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 5 degrees Celsius. Oh, I wish it was that cool here. Hi, Buster. Thanks again for your generosity and support, your friendship, and glad you popped in to say hello. Hope you have a great evening. Looks like we got our final test scores up. Let me jump back over to full screen here. Oh, let me get rid of camera 1 first. Let's see what our results say. So in high performance mode, we did not overheat. That was a question. Will it overheat? Nope. Our score is a little bit better, and our single core score doesn't really look that much better either. And our temps went up a bit. And other than that, you know, it's still idling now, so I wouldn't say it's any louder than it is normally, but it has the potential to crank up louder when we're in the higher performance mode. So me personally, I always choose balanced. Like if I have to put this thing in performance mode, that tells me I didn't buy enough computer. So I was being cheap, and now I'm going to just beat the hell out of it. It's probably not going to last very long if I do that and never change the mode. When I say not last very long, I'm saying if you could set up 3 computers exactly the same and put balanced mode on one, quiet mode in the other, and performance mode on the other one, and then you use them all equally over a period of time, likely the one in performance mode will be the first one to fail. However much time that takes, it will likely be the first one that has a failure. The balanced one would be the second one, most likely to have a failure next, and your quiet one is likely the one that will last the longest. And I say likely because we're dealing with statistical analytics and analysis, which may not represent your actual experience, but just overall and on average. That is typically what to expect. So let me go ahead and grab a screenshot of this, just like we did before. And then we'll come over here, we'll go to Paint. Edit and paste. And File, Save As, the JPEG on the desktop. There we go, and we'll call this one Performance, right? Save that. Now we can close everything out. Close, 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 close. Here we go. Now this will be a tough thing to put side by side by side, but let's see what it'll look like. It may be so small we can't. So this is the quiet mode. This is the default mode, if you want to look at the difference in the scores and the temps. Oh, looks like I cut off the scores, didn't I? Yikes. Something bigger or something smaller. Do that. And then we still have that third one to put on. So let's grab our performance results. Let's move that here. Bring that one back. Then bring this one in. Gonna need a bigger screen. the point of this exercise is to demonstrate how meaningless these numbers are, because they're so close together from one extreme to the other. If we skip over default and you just look at what our temperatures are on the low extreme and on the highest extreme, it's not big. It's a pretty minor little difference, but the way people talk about it on social media, you would think that that is a world of difference. It isn't. Most people cannot see that. Now, maybe if you're gaming and you're getting a few extra frames per second, that means something to you. But if you're good at a game, that's not going to affect your gameplay. If you're reaching a minimal frames per second, anything better than 30 frames per second, you're either good at the game or you're not. And the minute you're blaming the frames per second, you're just not a good gamer. Like if you have to have special equipment, a special keyboard or a special mouse or a special screen or a special refresh rate, if you've got to have certain settings turned on for you to be good at the game, that's not you that's good at the game. That's you using a bunch of crutches. Take away the crutches and take away your handicap, and let's see how well you play. Because a real gamer will play any game in the same way that a piano player will play any piano exactly the same. Whether it's a $10 Casio knockoff from the toy store or a Yamaha grand piano, when they play it, it'll sound great. But if you don't know how to play the piano, it's going to sound terrible regardless of the quality of the piano you're playing on. So don't blame the piano. If you're good at cooking food, it doesn't matter what pots and pans you use, it'll always turn out delicious. So don't use the excuse, I don't have HexClad and I don't have this and that, that's why my meal didn't. No, that's not what a real chef does. That's an enthusiast using excuses to point blame for a lack of talent. The way you build the talent is you put the time in. It's nothing you can buy. You cannot go into Walmart and buy the talent. You have to put in the time. Just as I've learned to type very quickly, and I've learned how to work on computers professionally over 35 years, I put in the time. I didn't just watch a video and suddenly become an expert. I didn't just buy a better keyboard or buy a better screwdriver. That didn't improve my skills. Not by much anyway. So when we look at these performance numbers, they're insignificant one way or the other. It's so insignificant to go to the quiet mode, why bother? It's so insignificant to go to the performance mode, why bother? Just leave it at default. That's the only thing that makes any common sense, and you'll get the most balanced reliability, performance, noise, and longevity without problems. If you just leave it the way the engineers, they've already done all the math for you. And they've probably done it in a more complex way than what you at home are doing without considering all of the conditions, right? Because you don't care about anybody else's conditions. You only care about your own, if you're like most people. And you don't even think about other people's scenarios and environments, humidity levels or, dust levels. It's out of sight, out of mind, because you as a home user, as an enthusiast, you have that option. When you work at a company and you represent clients all over the world in different environments and different atmospheres and different temperatures and elevations, we're trying to find a setting that one size fits all, no matter what. And it's not easy. That's a lot of work. You can't just look, you can oversimplify it. You can make light of somebody's skill and talent and education and say, well, I don't need any of that. Okay, I'm not telling you not to, but I don't want you making decisions for me, because if all you're thinking about is yourself, then you're not going to be an ideal candidate to work for me or for anybody else, where you need to consider what they need. So how do you set it once for everybody universally? You find the middle, and that's what the work is. Multiple engineers, not usually just one person, work together. They probably argue about it too. And then ultimately management makes the decision, and that's how we define quiet performance and balance mode. Right? It's just done on a whim. Typically, somebody doesn't just make that decision unilaterally for the company. It has to be scientifically proven out. The numbers have to prove it out. All right, so with that, it just doesn't make, it's such oversimplifying and disrespectful to oversimplify the complexity of what goes into deciding what these values are. that to just override them because you think you're getting more performance. You're getting a little teeny tiny bit, but the consequences that you have are likely going to be different and more likely going to happen than somebody who leaves it at just the default settings. So maybe you like that kind of, frustration and challenge, but if you just want it to work, leave it alone. It's not like you're getting that much benefit by putting it in performance mode. You get that much, little tiny bit. Just buy a better computer if you want that. Spend more money. Pick one. Or don't. And don't blame anybody else but yourself when you have problems. So like in Frankie's case, I know Frankie didn't modify anything. It just happens. So I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's not going to happen if you don't monkey with it. It's just less likely to. The reason I mention Frankie is because it's so unusual that we ever get a call for service on these minis. It stands out. Look, it happens. But it's so rare. When's the last time I've had any sort of story like that to share? But it would be less rare if everybody that was, modifying their minis, if that was the standard and we were here recommending you do that, we'd be getting a lot more calls for service. I guarantee it. It's inevitable. So you take that for whatever it's worth and measure it and act on it however you seem appropriate. Again, I'm only here to try and save you some money and some frustration. Some people don't want to save money and some people like to be frustrated. What are you going to do? All right, so we have this weird brand NVMe drive in there that I'm pretty certain this is a Gen 4 NVMe drive. Let me just a Gen 4 NVMe slot. Let me just double check that that does support Gen 4. Yeah, it's PCIe 4.0, but they didn't put a PCIe 4.0 storage drive in it. So they've left some I/O performance on the table, which again, for most people using their computer for work, they would never see it outside of benchmarks. But if that matters to you, you might be better off buying a bare bones machine and propagating it yourself with whatever you deem is your requirement, right? But you will pay more for it, bottom line, unless it's something you already have on hand that's just sitting around. So you can absolutely get this with more performance, and you will absolutely pay more for it. I'm looking on the Amazon page here just to see. Storage. Yeah, 6,400 mega transfers. Dual M.2 slots. Doesn't mention the speed of it. Oh, and it's Wi-Fi 6E, which is fairly new standard. So it's not like you're buying really old parts, parts that came out 10 years ago or something, because obviously they would be cheaper too, right? Even though it's a brand new machine, that processor might have come out many years ago. The AMD Ryzen Pro 6650H. Let's just see when that was released. (2022). So it's not that old. And when I say old, I'm referring to when AMD introduced it to the market, because it's still used in brand new machines today, as I've just shown you. And it was April 19th, so we're just past 4 years. It's practically its birthday. It would be 4 years old. But computers and processors, they haven't done much in that time as far as any improvements go. So why pay all the extra for something that's the latest tech when it's not measurably that much better than the tech 4 years later? All right, let's get back over to camera one and back over to the chat room. Here we go. Andy says, unless it's underpowered for the uses you subject it to. Yeah, but that's not its fault. I mean, if you buy a little economy car and you're trying to tow a giant boat behind it, and everybody's honking at you because you're holding up all the traffic because you're going up a hill and the car barely is moving forward, you made a bad decision. That's on you. You go, well, I can't afford a truck that can tow. Well, then you can't afford the boat, can you? Get a smaller boat, go without the boat. If money's that tight, you shouldn't own a boat. That's all I'm trying to say. If you can't tow the boat, what are you doing buying a boat you can't tow? You need to do it the other way around. Get the thing you need to tow the boat first. What do I need it for if I don't own a boat? Well, if you don't have enough money left to buy the boat after you buy the thing you need to tow it, then you cannot afford a boat. You can go rent one. They're more than happy to rent you a boat. Not a big deal. You could drive a different boat every time. You don't have to pay for the license. You don't have to pay for the maintenance. Just pay for the rental, use it, return it. So unless you're on the boat a lot, you could save a lot of money. But if you've got plenty of money, then you can afford to tow it. You can afford the boat. It's when people live outside of their means and they're trying to duct tape their way into success. It's a rickety success. It's very rickety. It might work for you for a little while, but it is a very difficult and oftentimes more expensive way to think you're saving money when it would have been cheaper for you to just do it right and not add any of the headaches. But that's just my personal opinion on it from my own life experience. I see way too many people are spending money trying not to look poor, which is what's keeping them from becoming rich. And I also see people who will buy outside of their means and live in debt, and they end up paying with interest and assuming they don't make any late payments, which has added fees. On average, they'll pay 3 times more. So somebody who can't afford this $400 computer but puts it on a credit card and makes minimum payments won't pay this off for 3.5 years, and when they do pay it off, they will have paid back $1,200 on average, maybe $1,000. So the people with the least amount of money spend 2 to 3 times more than people who have money. The people who can least afford it, by making decisions like this, continue to spiral into a downward abyss that has no escape until they change their spending habits. And somebody who's wealthy will just pay cash for it, or they put it on a credit card that gives them cash back on the purchase. So they get paid back money, and they don't pay as much as you paid. Even if you paid in cash, they're still paying less when they put it on a credit card that gives them back, cash back. May only be $1, still $1 more than you. And if they're buying multiple things every day, those dollars turn into hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars by just using their Discover card or something like that to make all their purchases. So at the point of sale, they're still paying the same price you're paying, but then they get a kickback from the credit card company that you're not getting. And instead, you're making minimum payments, which means you're paying, upwards of 30% interest. And a lot of people only make minimum payments, which means you'll spend three years just trying to pay that off. How are you ever going to be in a financially secured position if you keep making those bad decisions? A person that's wealthy, that has money, would never do that. So what are you doing if you don't have money? I think I know why you don't have money. Title loans on cars? You've got to be kidding me. You talk about just predatory loan practices where you take the weakest, most desperate and squeeze them for even more of what they don't have. Boy. And remember, nobody's forcing you to do that. That's just you making terrible financial decisions. And until you learn to be patient and to go without and make sacrifices, your life will be that way forever until you make that change. It's up to you. You got to start somewhere, and it starts with don't buy things you can't afford to pay for, or you'll be paying for it 3 times over. Anyway, it's your money. Rick Lake says, I get cash back. That's what I'm talking about. Mark Leibowitz said, Carey, if you scroll down the listing for the Nucbox M8, past the first two sets of pictures, there's a specs table that tells you the installed SSD is PCIe 3. Let's go look. I believe you, but I didn't see it. And you're talking about the GMKtec page or the AMD page? The Amazon page or the GMK page? Let's try GMKtec first. That's the first two pictures. Oh, two PCIe 3s. Is it 3 or is it? Oh, two PCIe 3 supports PCIe 4. What? This is an error. Somebody has made a mistake here. Let's keep scrolling because you mentioned it says about the drive. That's just talking about the slots. Here we go. Dual M.2 PCIe 4x4. This says 4. But again, it's talking about the slots. It's not talking about the drives. Maybe it was the Amazon page? That's the first two pictures. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Storage. Okay, maybe that's what he's referring to. Right there, it's more specific about the drive instead of the slot. This is very confusing. So it is PCIe 3. But, you know, it's the way they've worded it here could make you think the slot. There should be some form of separation here to separate what the drive is and versus what the slot is. They've not done a good job at that. But there you go. Appreciate bringing that to our attention. There's things that are, I guess I would just say they're hidden. They're not right in your face. What do you call that? There's a word for it. Conspicuous. It should be conspicuous and obvious, not inconspicuous. It's the other way around. Conspicuous meaning it's right there in front of you to see and it's clear, so you can't say I didn't see it. Those little details, I think most companies could do a better job at highlighting that. Most companies probably wouldn't even tell you, so kudos to GMKtec for at least admitting it instead of waiting till you get your own surprise. But that's why we do these reviews, so we can explore that and point out both the positive and the negative in their marketing materials. And even GMKtec has a mistake that says the slots are Gen 3 on one part of the page and says they're Gen 4 in a different part. I'm sure they're all Gen 4. And if we wanted to put our faster drive in there, we could totally do that. I don't want to because, again, getting hung up on benchmarks, not on reality performance. And if you can justify the reality performance, it's your money. Spend it however you want. But when I sell this to customers, if I sell it, I'd leave it just the way it is. And at the end of the day, would I recommend this? Having, taken it apart and looked at it, seeing how easy it comes apart and how upgradable it is, plus the OCulink, plus the USB4, the pre-installed Windows 11 Pro, what's not to like it? Other than aesthetically, it's just not that attractive in my opinion. But I think when you talk about price, people will shut up about whether or not they think it's pretty. I don't think that's going to kill the sale. It's not ugly, but it's definitely not as attractive as some of the other. I guess if you look at like Apple products, they're all attractive. Apple doesn't make an ugly product. For some people, that's really important. And those people spend more at Apple. An Apple computer costs on average twice what a Windows PC costs at a minimum. It starts at twice and goes up from there. But that's part of what you're paying for. Sort of this you get into the Apple ecosystem where everything is Apple. You love Apple. You give Apple your money. You praise Apple. You swear by Apple. You live by Apple. And you show it off like it's a designer Gucci handbag or a purse. You want everybody to see your iPhone. You want people to see your iMac. You want... Actually, when it comes to t-shirts, these t-shirts cost more than any other t-shirts I've ever bought in my life, and they're worth it. But still a fraction of the cost of a nice brand name, you know, fashion brand button-down shirt. So that's where my values are. I wanted to check, I can't remember if I checked who makes the Wi-Fi and the Ethernet on this. Let's look in the device manager real quick. Let me get over there and check it while it's on my mind. I think I forgot to do that, and I'm curious right now. Right click, go to device manager, and network adapters. Okay, the Realtek Gaming 2.5 gig, there's two of them. Those are your LAN adapters. And then the RZ616 Wi-Fi 6E, is that MediaTek? RZ616. Who is RZ? Z616. Who makes that? Yeah, it's Media. No, wait a minute. That's not helpful. Yeah, it is MediaTek. MediaTek RZ616. Okay. So, and that adapter is removable and replaceable. So if you wanted to switch over to Intel or Realtek, as Media, whoever else makes Wi-Fi adapters, you could totally do that. You could also disable it and plug a USB Wi-Fi adapter in there too. So that's always an option for minis, desktops, and laptops alike. If you have a USB port, then you don't even have to use any tools. Plug it in and your upgrade's done. But there's nothing wrong with the MediaTek. It's just some people running alternative operating systems may have difficulty finding drivers. Windows users needn't worry. And besides, the Realtek, that absolutely does have Linux and other drivers for other OSs. MediaTek is just not quite as big yet, nor is Marvell, but you'll see more and more from Marvell and from MediaTek in the future. They're getting there, slowly but surely. And then if we look one more time in the system properties, we can just verify a few things here real quick before we wrap it up. Ryzen 5 Pro 6650H, 16 gigs of installed RAM. That's our 512 storage. Scroll down, we have Windows 11 Pro 25H2, build 26200.8246, which is the latest and most current version of Windows 11 Pro as of the 22nd of April 2026. And we are activated, right? Let's just type in up here and verify activation. See if Windows is activated. And we are activated. So you don't have to worry about providing your own product key or providing your own Windows. All you do is update it when you get it with Windows Update, which is what we did in part 1. And then once everything installs and everything looks good, then you can start loading your software and your printers and scanners and all the other stuff one at a time, get it all configured, and use it for years and years reliably after that. So with that, I would say yes, absolutely. In my opinion, I have no problem recommending this unit. I have no doubt it's just as reliable as any other mini PC. I don't think anybody's really making them any different, name brand or otherwise. The question is, what kind of support will you get should you have a problem? I don't know. I've never worked with GMKtec support, but I would assume it's going to be a lot better than something I order from AliExpress. I assume it's something better than that good Tico, another machine I would recommend, but knowing you're not going to get any support. I don't have to worry. I already know it's not there, so there's nothing to worry about. I just love that, you know, hey mom, remember that vase you were worried about us kids breaking? Well, you don't have to worry anymore. Anyway, because of the price savings on the good Tico unit, it's likely fine. Its reliability is probably not any better, not any worse than anybody else. Sometimes things happen. It doesn't matter how reliable something is on average. That doesn't guarantee you're going to have the same experience. We can only just say most people on average aren't going to have any problems. And if you have a problem, then how good is the support? Well, with good TECO, you're just not going to get any. So at that point, if you're okay with that risk to save a few dollars, recommended buy. This is also a recommended buy, despite the fact that I'm not a big fan of the look of it. Who cares? I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at the screen. What do I need to look at this for? I love the ports. I love it's got USB4. It's got OCulink I'll never use, but it's not coming at a cost of losing the second M.2. And those M.2s are Gen 4, and there's 2 of them. The fact it's Wi-Fi 6E also means we're not being held back on the Wi-Fi. Overall, for $300 and what is it, $79, we paid $360. There was like a, I think it was $369, and then there was an added $19 coupon. It's $379, I think. And then at checkout on Amazon, it applied a coupon I didn't even know was there for $19 off. So we paid $360. Now with sales tax here in Phoenix, that came out to just about $400. But a bargain, in my opinion, all day long. Now, if you're aware of a mini PC that you think is a better value than this, please share it with us. Send it to us in our email. Send us a link to what you're referring to and tell us why you think it's better. And we'll talk about it. If you guys have some examples, we'll see if others agree with you. So if you're saying, hey, this $1,500 computer is way better than that one, then justify why it's worth $1,100 more than this $400 one. What makes it better? I mean, you can throw money at something and keep making it better. But are you saying that that $1,500 one is also better value for the money? If so, tell me why. Or is there another computer at this price point or lower that you can buy today that matches these specs or exceeds them, or matches this level of support or exceeds it, or this level of warranty or exceeds it? I want to know about it. Genuinely and sincerely, I want to know. Share these little secrets you have. And if it's going to cost more money, but you think it's a better value, explain that logic. And then let's go read those aloud, if we get any, to the audience and let them vote on it and see if, let the reality sink in for all of us, how popular your opinion might be to the average person that watches this channel, to see if they agree or disagree with you. At the end of the day, if you're happy with your purchase, who cares what anybody else has to say? But if you're telling me, as a viewer, that you think this other computer is a better value, you're probably not alone. I don't know that it represents a majority, but maybe it does. How do I know unless you tell me? And we can ask the audience, we'll put up a poll, let them vote on it. And if people say, yeah, they're agreeing with you, then we definitely got to get one in so we can see it for ourselves. So we definitely want you to be a part of the show in that way. And if we can help you out with any computer problems or questions, just drop us the email. We love to hear from you guys. And you'll usually get a response from us pretty darn quick. Thank you again to Buster and to Luke Greeny for your what do I want to call that? Your additional contribution, and of course, their memberships as well as everybody else in green, all of our other members. That's what's paying for all of the stuff you see on camera now. There was right now there's some complaining going on that AMD's latest, 9950X3D something other, they didn't send out review units to a lot of big reviewers. And people are saying, oh, AMD's blacklisting reviewers or blah, blah, blah. And the way the whole system works is kind of a scam, if you ask me what I think. When AMD is sending units out to reviewers, we don't get them, right? We don't play their game. What AMD says is, we will send you the chip. And then you're going to say, well, it's a brand new chip. It's not released yet. How am I supposed to use it? Well, we'll send you the board, and we'll send you the RAM, and we'll send you the cooler, So AMD is going to control your benchmark and will send it to you 3 weeks early, but you can't tell anybody about it. You have to just stay quiet. But you can quietly in private do all your benchmarks. Keep all the results to yourself. If you break this violation, we could come after you in court, because they're trying to protect their intellectual property until they're ready to go public with it. They don't want you being a whistleblower and jumping the gun, and you ruin it. You ruined it for everybody. So basically what they say is, we'll send you the CPU, the board, the cooler, the RAM. So they're controlling exactly, they already know what your benchmark is going to do. And in exchange, you can be one of the very earliest reviews in the sense that we're going to do that for a number of people. None of your business. How many other people? But none of you will be allowed to publish until this date. If you publish before then, we're going to hold you legally responsible for what it's going to cost us if you do that. So then on April 14th or whatever, the chip is released, and now all these content creators all release videos on the same day. They already have the benchmarks done. And they all use the same motherboard, the same RAM, and the same CPU, and the same cooler. Really? I wonder if AMD might have cherry-picked that motherboard, might have cherry-picked that RAM, might have cherry-picked that cooler. In my opinion, this whole process should be illegal. There should be a law that says you cannot do this. If you're going to review a product, the company, if the company were to send you the product in a reviewable state where you didn't have to add anything, it's already been decided for you, then it should be the law you have to disclose the details of every bit of hardware, BIOS version, and conditions under which you are testing to get those results. Otherwise, it's omitting critical information that will likely result in the viewer, the victim, buying the same CPU and not getting the same performance. Maybe they're having heat issues, maybe they're having crashing problems because the RAM they used wasn't the cherry-picked RAM that AMD included, and now there's some compatibility issue that AMD doesn't want to admit, talk about, or discuss. You're either going to take everything positively and you're going to follow our rules using our hardware, or you're not going to get the hardware, and therefore you won't be one of the first people with reviews. You can go buy it yourself. The day those reviews are published is typically the day the product comes out. Go buy one, and a couple days later you'll get it, right? Assuming you get, they're not sold out. Buy your own motherboard, buy your own RAM, buy your own cooler, run your own test, and then within about 2 or 3 weeks after the product hype is all died out, you can publish your review. Probably isn't going to hit the same. So this is the inherent catch-22 of this situation, where if these content creators are constantly relying on free products to review, and they're blaming the companies who make the products like they're entitled, and we are entitled to get a free AMD CPU, motherboard, and RAM so we can test it? Does AMD owe us something? No. And just because you've been getting it doesn't mean that you deserve it, and it doesn't mean that you're entitled to continue getting it. If you want it, go buy it yourself. And when people that review products are buying the products themselves, you can trust in those reviews 100% for accuracy and being totally complete with the environment where AMD is controlling that on the free sample units they send out. So if I was a viewer, and I am, and I see videos that come out on the day the product was released, and they clearly had the product for a while, because these benchmarks, as you can tell, they take a long time, I don't trust them at all. I go, okay, this was all cherry-picked. This is all cherry-picked. What if I just buy a regular board like a regular person? What if I use some RAM I already have? Or I use some RAM that's more attractive to me for price or value, whatever. Will I still get the same results? Probably not. So how can you even trust those reviews? In my opinion, what we're doing here by our members providing us support so we can go out and buy the products we genuinely want to review, We don't have to worry about if a manufacturer sends us a product or not. And if they do send us a product, it's under the strict conditions that we film it live. They don't get to preview it. They get to see the same thing everybody else sees, and we're honest. We aren't going to beat up on them, and we're not also going to, try and convince everybody you better buy one today. We're going to tell you we like it, we don't like it, here's what we like, here's what we don't like. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, maybe you buy it, maybe you don't. We don't make a commission if you buy it or not. There's nothing in the race for this, for us. There's no dog in the race that we have other than making sure our viewers are happy. And if the products are terrible products and the company is upset with our review, good, because we don't want to review any more products from that company if that's their attitude. We will agree to just go separate ways. That'll be best for all of us. But when companies appreciate the honesty and they improve their products, I got to tell you, we received an email from Gertoli, and we were a little rough on Gertoli. They didn't have a website, they didn't have support. And we got one of the best emails you could ever hope for from a manufacturer, which is they highlighted every single point I made that needed improvement, and they acknowledged it and told us what they've done and are continuing to do to meet these concerns, and are asking if we would reevaluate them now that they have their website up and running and their downloads and support is there. Would we give them another chance? Yes, that's the whole point. We're not out to punish. We're not out to punish. This isn't about being punitive. This is, listen to what we're saying. We're trying to help. And if they don't want to hear it, we don't need to waste each other's time. If all you wanted me to do was make a commercial, we can work out a payment for that. Maybe $5,000 will get the ball rolling. Maybe. A commercial for TV will easily cost you 10 to 20 times that. Pay for actors, union workers, proper stage, actors, script writers, editors. $5,000 is nothing if that's what you want as a commercial. No problem. And we will air it as a commercial. We haven't done it yet, but I'd be more than happy to say, hey guys, I'm going to make a commercial today. I will be fully transparent and honest about it. But when reviews end up being commercials because they got the product for free under cherry-picked parts, is it still a review? And is it really a bad thing that these content creators didn't get their free products? Let them go out and buy it like you and I do. And let's see how their review changes compared to the last time they reviewed where they got it for free. I wonder if there'll be a difference. So we really appreciate our members here, because it's the members who make these videos possible, not the generosity of some company hoping for a positive review. We do get some of that, but lately, not much. Now things have changed. The economy has changed. The manufacturing, all of that's changed now. I hope temporarily. So what do we do in the meantime? We count on each other. I count on you. You guys count on me. I'm here for you. I love and appreciate and honor that you're here for me. And we'd love for more people to become a part of this community, because this channel could grow to much bigger means. It's not that I'm not willing. I'm constrained by the abilities of being able to afford certain things. And let's face it, we all are today. Just buying groceries is a lot of money. Buying gas is a lot of money. So this isn't a telethon, but this is to tell you what you expect to see from this channel is directly related to what our supporters are helping us to create. And if you want to be a supporter, that would be awesome. And if you don't want to be a supporter, we're just happy to have you here regardless. But if you want to know what's coming and why has it been a lot of mini PCs or this particular value, because that's what people want right now. People aren't wanting the Ultra 9, some people do, but I mean overall those big expensive, like the MS02 Ultra is a $3,000 computer. It's an amazing computer, but not many people are spending $3,000 on computers now. They might have done it on a whim, but not right now, not in our economy. They're buying it if they need it and only if they need it. When it comes to practicality, how much can I get for my money? That's what's happening right now. And that's what we're trying to fulfill, is to answer the the needs of the many. And if you have ideas, once again, for a good value mini PC, please share it with us. Mark Gaines had written in about looking at laptops on Amazon and seeing a lot of third-party sellers, not all of which are being honest about what they're selling. And there's a manufacturer I'm looking at that I'm thinking about buying just so we can do the review, though I don't necessarily want the product. We could resell the product when we're done with it. And just to do that real quick, I'll show you here. You guys can tell me if I should do this or if I'm wasting my time. This company Firebat, we bought one of their minis because it looks like a really good deal. And if I assume positive things that it's built well, it's a good value, then what else does Firebat make? Because we've never looked at any Firebat products before. Well, I saw this laptop that's a Ryzen 7 with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 of storage. Knowing how expensive that stuff is, this has a keyboard, speakers, battery, trackpad, backlit keyboard, screen. $377. That's cheaper than this GMKtec, matching the specs, except the RAM is not soldered in on the laptop. You can upgrade the RAM. It's only got the one RJ45, but the fact that a laptop even has an RJ45, pretty unusual. And we're still right around that same $400 price point, which seems to be the magic price right now for a pretty decent machine that's not, entry level. So do you think that I should order one of these and review it, or do you think no? They are promoting this as primarily a business and student laptop, not as a gaming laptop. Looks awfully tempting. We already have a good laptop manufacturer that we like, Nemo. But it's always nice to have options, and I don't know anything about Firebat. So if you have experience with Firebat and you want to share that with us, or if you think this is something we should do or we shouldn't do, we would love to hear your thoughts on it, because that's caught my eye now and I can't let it go. Seems too good to be true. That price is quite low for all of that, if you ask me. But maybe you feel differently. I'll never know if you don't tell me. Mr. BCA says Intel Wi-Fi cards will not work on Ryzen Pros. Why not? Let me try some. Let's go back to, we'll go back to Amazon for a second. And let's grab the screen here. Let's go up here. Will Intel Wi-Fi cards work on Ryzen Pro? Yes. But hey, don't let that stop you from making comments in the chat room. You always have to check what people say. Even if it's somebody you think you can trust, people make mistakes. I'm not suggesting they're all doing it on purpose to manipulate people for fun and be bullies. They may actually believe what they're saying is true, but that doesn't, just because they believe it's true, doesn't mean it's true. And there may be certain circumstances that are required in order for what they're saying to be true if you meet certain things. So like here, for example, it's got a caveat that says, avoid Intel cards ending in the number 1, like the 201, the 211, the 411. These cards are using a different type of connector. And that's restricted to Intel CPUs. That's what it's saying. but you wouldn't be able to plug it in. It won't fit. Now, if you look at the AX200 or the AX210, those will work. So apparently there are some conditions, but not the blanket statement that was just made in chat. And I want to call that out as an example of why you cannot believe people online. You need to verify. And these days it's easier than ever. And especially if you use something like Copilot or Gemini or Grok or Anthropic, ChatGPT, they're getting, early on, they're very accurate with regards to technical stuff, the computers and stuff. They're already really, really good at that. The AIs are. They're not good at everything yet, but they've got that pretty well nailed. But that's a good place to start. So let's go back to the chat room and just see if there's anything else if there's anything else anybody else is saying for us to call out. Oystein, all the way from Norway, says hello in that chat room. Ron Toomey said, it's weird you can't buy a mini PC case this size or smaller to build your own mini PC. It's far too delicate. You wouldn't want the average consumer trying to put something like that together. You'd have so many support calls and returns, damage. Way too easy to break it. And there's no real standard form factor for motherboard size. You know, we can pull out 6 different mini PCs, and some are wider, some are longer, some are taller. There is a standard where they're like 5 by 5, and that is an official standard. But if you want to do something like that, you'd probably be looking more like Raspberry Pi. You know, Raspberry Pi is more of the do-it-yourself kind of small scale mini PC, but it's very limited in power. When you start letting people do it themselves, boy, you're gonna run into cooler height issues. Cooler's not moving enough air for the CPU. Users will make some really bad decisions, and it's going to result in costing the company a lot of money or just getting slammed with bad reviews. So best to not offer that to consumers unless it's a plug-and-play solution, which there are no real standards for, including power. So when you're on your own to get your own power supply, your own case, your own cooler, your own Wi-Fi card, your own storage, your own RAM, it'll end up costing you $200 more. This would cost you $600 if you could build it yourself. Promise you. So why would you want to? There's no market for people to spend more. So that could change, but if you're wondering why, it's completely logical that financially it won't work. Framework laptops are some of the heaviest, most expensive laptops you can buy. They're very serviceable. That's why people are not buying them. They want something lighter and cheaper. Whether or not it's serviceable doesn't matter. From a consumer's point of view, if the thing is unreliable, I'll never buy it again regardless. I'm not going to sit there and keep repairing it no matter how repairable it is. If it's a piece of crap, it's a piece of crap. But I'm not going to pay more and carry around a heavier computer that's supposed to be portable just because it's easier to repair. How about one I don't need to repair at all? How about that? So that's the average consumer versus a technical person. Andy said he's got a fire bat and he likes it. Oh, good to know. Brian Weber says you can return it if it doesn't work. I say give it a try. The laptop? I could return it even if it does work. It is Amazon. I just don't feel right about doing that. All right, well, with that, that'll wrap it up for today. What I'll try and do in the future is download the first part and the second part of this video, take out all of our interaction and just keep it on the PC. That'll still probably be an hour and a half long when it's done. and then post that as just the mini PC review. I like to combine community interaction where we kind of stop the review and talk to the audience about what's on your mind. And we have some viewers that have no interest in being part of a community and they want to watch a commercial. Clearly, even at an hour and a half, that's not a commercial, but it's very in-depth. But we can accommodate these people that want to be coddled, whose time is so precious they can't be bothered to make any friends or give a rat's behind about any communities, that without which they wouldn't even have the content to watch. But why I would even accommodate them is because there's so many of them, it adds up to a lot of views. So because that, you know, makes a difference on this platform, I'll go through the pain in the butt to edit out most of the private conversation that we have, not private, but you know, the one-on-one that we have during these live videos. If it has nothing to do with me reviewing this, and it's hours and hours and hours of work to strip all that out, re-render it, re-upload it, retitle it, re-thumbnail it. But oftentimes that results in getting views we would not have otherwise had. I really don't want to do it though. I don't like editing. I don't like the amount of time it takes. And for those people who can't be bothered, what do I care? You know what I mean? Like, if you can't be bothered to mow your lawn, I'm not going to come over and mow it for you. Live with an ugly lawn. I don't care. But that's what these people do. They're going to punish themselves unless I accommodate them. And it's like, all right, well, you know, go punish yourself. Then what do I care? But there's so many of them, it can actually be in my benefit to appeal to these entitled, lazy people. That's what I call them, who are so selfish that they don't give a rat's behind about being part of any community, and they don't respect the people who made these videos happen. I'm really on the fence on this because morally I feel it's wrong. You get what you get, and if you don't like it, do it yourself. On the other hand, if it does result in a lot more views, because there's so many of them in society today, then am I just hurting myself over principle? So I've got some work cut out for me. Break out the violins. Ron says, do I still lean toward Intel versus AMD for reliability? Well, they both have reliability problems, right? Intel chips have burned up. We had that problem on 13th and 14th gen. AMD chips are still struggling with some burnout issues, especially on ASRock motherboards that has not yet been resolved. So, you know, it's really just 6 of one and half dozen of another. At the end of the day, I choose Intel for my work purposes. I'm not gaming on any of these computers. And if I was using a discrete graphics card, if I was throwing in an NVIDIA graphics card, it wouldn't even make any difference if it was AMD or Intel. Zero difference at all. That would all be on the graphics card, at least for most games. So I still use, personally, I use Intel. But of all the computers we have here in the studio, half of them are AMDs. It's almost an exact 50-50 split. And there's nothing wrong with those AMD computers. Nothing at all wrong with them. They're not less reliable. I don't really see any benefit to them that would make them higher up on the chain than Intel. And I don't really see anything better about Intel, honestly. If anything, the AMDs may be a little bit cheaper, but that's not really holding true much these days. Primarily, the big difference is from a gaming mentality, where you're going to use onboard graphics. Then it's no argument, AMD all the way. AMD's graphics for gaming are far superior. But for content creation, Intel's graphics are better. So you might like white chocolate, I might like milk chocolate, Mara might want dark chocolate. Who cares? Buy what you like. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. None of them is going to get you sick unless you already have an allergy. That's on you. So I don't think that there's a worry of buying the wrong thing. So I think when people ask these questions, they're looking for some kind of reassurance. Well, let me reassure you. Your decisions are right for you and nobody else. And my decisions are right for me. And no matter how I feel about something, it has nothing to do with you and your values. So I would not suggest looking to others for approval or agreement. You buy what's right for you. And if you don't know what that is, then hire somebody you trust to guide you through that. If you're going to get advice for free online, it's what it's worth, man. It probably doesn't apply to you very much. But just because people agree on something doesn't mean they're right. We could all agree the Earth is flat. That does not make the Earth flat. We could all agree Intel is better than AMD or AMD is better than Intel. That does not make it true just because we're preaching to a choir that all agree with us. That is denying reality. And the reality is cold and chaotic, and it's not simple. It's very complicated. And it involves a subjective point of view depending on your values and how you plan to use it and where you see value, where you see a good, reliable computer versus how I measure it. We're measuring two different ways. But for the sake of just answering your question, my personal computers are all Intel. But I have nothing against AMD, nothing. And we were running AMD as our streamer. And I've got lots of AMD computers. So sometimes by answering the question, what you may not be realizing you're doing is you're baiting a bunch of other viewers. You're baiting me into challenging them by asking me that question. And then I have to deal with the consequences of viewers, because I've answered your question now, who don't agree with me and will leave nasty comments and thumbs down a video simply because they refuse to allow any respect to anybody who feels differently. If you don't agree with me, you're wrong, and I'm going to punish you for that. That's how wars get started and people die over silly nonsense. So I don't really like those questions, and I will address them, and I will tell you every time I address them, because you baited me and I took the bait, I will now deal with some consequences from some viewers who refuse to accept my answer because it's not what they wanted to hear. So if we could avoid those kinds of questions, it's a valid question and it may not have been your intent, but we have had viewers do this on purpose. I know that's for a fact. They have asked questions specifically so they can then challenge me. And, you know, that's not why I'm here. Anytime we talk about opinions, unless I'm getting paid, doesn't matter. So if I sell you a computer and you say, I need a computer that does this and this, and I say, here's the price, and you agree to that, and I don't deliver that, I'm held accountable. But if you get free advice online just for the heck of it, and it's completely free, has nothing at all to do with you, you're saying, hey, how do you feel, Carey? And I tell you how I feel, then lashback from other people who aren't paying anything will inevitably appear in the comments. Thumbs down, they try and trash me because I have my own opinion. So welcome to being a content creator on the internet today. You better tell people what they want to hear. Why do you think AI agents are sycophants and they always say, great question, what a great idea. Thank you for correcting me. That's how you have to talk to the public now. You have to talk to them like they're children. Otherwise, they get angry and have a tantrum. This is the reality we live in today. And I'm not going to play the game. So generally speaking, I just won't answer those questions anymore because people only want to hear overall what they want to hear and don't respect the opinions of other people unless those opinions are the same as what they already agreed to. What a terrible place this world has become where we can deny reality and punish people. But I guess it's always been that way, right? You're different. You're a witch, let's burn you at the stake, you know. We're so civilized, look how far we've come. You're different, let's get them. Isn't it time for that stuff to end? You'll be fine with AMD or Intel. You'll be just fine. No matter what I think. Mark Gaines tells me to check email. Right under the wire, Mark. Wow, a very generous contribution from Mark. Here's a little something for the channel coffers. Well, that's going to help a lot. Thank you, Mark. Cheers. Didn't see that coming. Of course, Buster and Luke Greenia, thank you guys as well. All the members, including Mark and Buster and Luke Greenia, thank you guys for supporting us here. Is my Gatorade bottle a prop? No, I drink out of that. It was full when if you go back to the beginning of the video, I hadn't even opened this yet. So it's been, if it's a prop, that's some special effects we got going on there. What a budget. Edward Bass said, Carey and Mara, I do the show and planning on coming back, and I'm glad I found it. It works for me. Well, thank you, Edward. We love having you here. Again, how often we can make videos and what the content is, it's all on our audience. Or we're lucky enough to get a manufacturer to send us a product. There's a brand new product that came out. One more thing before we wrap up. Then I am saying goodbye here. But I want to, something happened yesterday I want to tell you about. There's a new KVM. I know some of you are going to roll your eyes at this point. Called the Leaf. Like a tree has leaves, the Leaf KVM. Is this more of the same? Well, you tell me. Check this out. It's at kvm.rs. I don't know what the .rs means. They've already got documentation up. It's available on Crowd Supply, which is like Kickstarter or Indiegogo. But I don't know much about Crowd Supply. However, I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit. So we've got all the features that are very similar from other KVMs. This is Wi-Fi. It is only 100 megabit. It's not gigabit, but who cares? It will have an option of power over Ethernet. Open source software. 2.4-inch touchscreen, which will even give you a full preview of the screen you're connected to. And it's kind of different looking. And I think there are some people that have already reviewed early prototypes of this. We're not one of them. But we did reach out to Leaf KVM and we did introduce ourselves and let them take a look at our YouTube channel, and hopefully they'll add us to their review list. However, regardless if they do or they don't, I've ordered one. Subscribe on Crowd Supply. So let's go to Crowd Supply. How much is it? So they just started this yesterday, I think was the first day. So they've only had 25 backers so far, but they've got 43 days left. So they just started and they're already 61% in just 2 days of their funding goal. So if they don't reach their funding goal, you get your money back. If they do reach their funding goal, well, then you should be getting a product in a matter of months as it goes through manufacturing. But if we take a look at their video here, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this better than the Nano KVM, the Pico KVM, the Arc KVM, the Jet KVM. I don't know. The Comet. But it's cheap. And, you know, they're connecting with a tablet to that screen. I don't know how they're... Sure how they got that hooked up. Look at the touch screen, the Wi-Fi. I guess it connects as a hotspot. It's got, there's the screen that he's connected to. He can pinch and zoom on the connected screen. There's the IP address. You can log in remotely with your browser. There's your whole interface, which looks an awful lot like Jet KVM's. It may not be, though. I don't know what they're using. It's all open source. They even make a VGA adapter you can buy separately, which I don't know anybody who needs it, but if you have old equipment, that'll convert that to HDMI. That may be a benefit for some of you. How cool is it? So $119 plus I think it was $10 in sales tax. And we're on the list. Now, this campaign to get to that $10,000 goal is 43 days left. That's going to be June 4th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And assuming they have exceeded this goal, which I'm sure they will, they're telling you what they've done so far, how they've changed the product due to the changes in the market with cost of things, and how they kind of went back to the drawing board and redesigned it as a result. And they're very transparent. So if this is a scam, they're putting a lot of work into it. So there's how they're comparing it to the Jet, the Pi, the Nano, and the Comet Pro KVMs. The differences between them. They emphasize it's open source, the documentation. If you want to see it right now, it's available. There's a quick start guide. You can go through all the documentation right now. So they're really far along with this on day one. They've obviously got at least about a year into this design so far, and all the work that's been done to the website, the product marketing materials, photographs. This takes a lot of time to develop. So that hard part is already done. Now all they have to do is update it as they progress. And I expect that this is a product that will ship and they will meet their funding goal based on, $6 grand in 2 days is pretty good. So I wanted to share that with you because I don't know that they're saying when they're going to ship. It could be 6 months from now before we get anything. We'll see. But we did let them know we are reviewers and we have reviewed all the KVMs. And they said, great, send us your address. And when we have a unit ready to review, we'll send it to you prior to fulfilling any orders. So we'll get it early hands-on. Plus, we'll also get the one we ordered later. So we're working on that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that these kind of deals where we're getting products for free to review, they're few and far between nowadays. They're not coming out with many new products. I don't know of any other new KVMs in development. This is it. And I want to see that change. And who knows, maybe tomorrow a new KVM is introduced or a new motherboard or a new chip, but don't hold your breath. It's just not working at that pace right now. Hopefully we'll get back to that when things get better, but it could be a while. I hope it's not, but we got to be prepared for the long haul. So this kind of preparation now is absolutely required. It's no longer an option for me. If I want to keep making content, I have to keep finding it. I can't wait for it to come to me. If you have some ideas and you want to share them with us, please let us know in our email. And once again, I'm going to put the email up one more time. We're looking for something that would have mass appeal. Not necessarily a very niche product, but something that would have mass appeal for a certain category. Like the KVMs, I think have mass appeal for many of our viewers who are doing support for their family and their friends that would utilize it, or maybe want it for themselves for remote access to their own computers for their own personal use. And for people that do computer repairs professionally, like myself, Mark Gaines, Frank Jimmy, and others, something like that would be very potentially appealing for them. When you're offering something to us to say, hey, you should consider, maybe buying one of these and reviewing it, it's great that you're interested in it. But my question for you is, do you think the vast majority of viewers or the viewers of a certain category would have an interest in this? And if you think yes, send it to us. And if you think, well, no, probably not many people, then, we're probably going to come to the same conclusion, right? There's no magical mystery to how we're deciding what to review. Can we get it? Is it affordable? And will this have interest to at least a subsection of our viewers versus one viewer? Okay, that's all I'm trying to do. And if you have ideas for that, I don't want to discourage them. I want to encourage them. But I want you to know exactly what I'm going to be measuring when you send those requests in or those suggestions. I'm going to be asking myself, who's this for? And if the answer is a group of people that watch us, absolutely, great idea, and thank you. But if it's no, we've never had anybody ask for anything like this before, we could post a poll, but more or less we kind of know based on our history what the viewers are interested in here. And to spend $400 or whatever to buy something for a video that doesn't perform well is a great way to punish us. I want to see them go out of business. But don't be afraid to send your suggestions regardless, and don't be offended or hurt if we don't think it's going to fly. We'd rather that you spoke up, kept it to yourself, and let us make the decision. Just don't take it personally if we don't agree with it, but we still appreciate the effort and the exercise. The hope is that there's some deals out there that you'll make us aware of that would have a mass appeal that we would not have known otherwise. Today's video with the GMKtec M8, it started with an email from Mark Gaines expressing his experience with it and saying, hey, I think this really aligns with your values. You might want to look at it. And I didn't have the means to buy it, and I was like, oh, it's interesting, maybe someday. And someday happened, then here we are. All right, and that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for hanging out. Thanks to Mara for all the work she does in our behind the scenes as our channel administrator. We hope that we hear from you, and if there's anything we can do to help you, let us know. The .rs extension is Serbia. Oh, that's cool. Wow. Well, I've never seen that before. Good to know. That came from Andy and Jim Kenny. Thank you for letting me know. And we will see you on Friday. What are we doing on Friday? Well, now that we have some mini PCs to review, there is a pretty high-end mini PC from Minis Forum, and I mentioned it before. There's an MS02 Ultra that's not the $3,000 version. It's an i5 or an Ultra 5, bare bones, no storage, no RAM, no operating system, but a monster of a computer for $599. $599. I'll show it to you real quick as I say goodbye here. Now this is subject to change, but I think this is what I'm going to do on Friday. The Minis Forum MS02 Ultra with the Core Ultra 5, which is several tiers lower than the Ultra 9 version. But it's 14 cores, 14 threads, PCIe 5.0 by 16. It has 4 memory sockets. Laptop SODIMM, you normally only see those in 2s. It's got 4. That means this thing can hold like 256 gigs or some ridiculous 192 gigs of RAM. USB4 version 2. This is the latest and greatest. 10 gig and 2.5 gig Ethernet ports. Are you kidding me? For $600? How is that not a steal? And it's much bigger than a normal mini PC because it's much more capable. And we've seen the high-end version of the MS02, but most people can't afford that. So for $200 more than what we looked at today, you could get something much more powerful, much faster I/O. I think that needs to be looked at. So I think we'll do that Friday, but I could change my mind if something else comes in. That's what I'm thinking of. You already know I'm going to like it. We've already looked at the other higher end versions. These are probably, at least from my perspective, going to operate exactly the same because I don't need all that high end amount of RAM and processor. For what I use it for, that thing's going to render video just fine. It's going to do everything I need it to do just fine. And it's going to cost, a significant amount of money less than the higher end version. So why overpay for overkill for things you're not even using when you can essentially get something that looks identical on the outside? Only you know what's under the hood. So if it's meeting your needs, who cares about what anybody else thinks? That seems like a really good price for all of that. But anyway, that's what we're working on. That's what's coming up. And now that I think we're done with this and we can get it boxed back up, we'll send that out to Mark Gaines. And because Mark has paid for this, we use that money, and we've got a K15 coming to review. But I don't want this to become a GMKtec channel. So we'll try and sprinkle them amongst other models. So, but that's coming as well. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you all again very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.